Good evening. The Tuesday, July 20th, 2021 meeting of the Beverly Planning Board is hereby called to order. This is going to be a hybrid meeting, and as a preliminary matter, again, my name is Ellen Hutchinson. I serve as the chair of the Planning Board. Before beginning the meeting, I would like to announce that this meeting is being recorded by the City of Beverly and is being broadcast by BevCam. I'd like to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members of the Planning Board, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Sarah Bartley?
Yes.
Derek Beckwith?
Virtually.
Virtually. Derek is with us virtually tonight. Alexander Kraft?
Yes.
Ellen Flannery?
Yes.
Wayne Miller?
Yes.
Rodney Sinclair? Rodney, I think, is still recovering from Achilles surgery, so I don't believe is going to be with us tonight. Brendan Sweeney?
Yes.
Andrea Toulouse?
Yes.
And Ellen Hutchinson? Yes. Staff members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Our Assistant Planning Director, Emily Hutchings?
Yes.
And Sarah Scott Nelson?
Yes, virtually.
Let's see, anticipated speakers on the agenda. Please respond in the affirmative. Mr. Tom Alexander. Present. I don't know who is representing the others.
So we will have David McKinley from Castle Boose for 175 Elliott Street.
Okay, Mr. McKinley, are you present?
He may not be yet.
Okay,
Oh, yep, I see him.
okay.
And then we will have Mike Smith representing 232 Rantoul Street.
Is Mr. Smith present with us?
Yes, present.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. And do we have anybody, is parking and traffic going to be here, or are we handling that on our own?
We are handling that, but I did provide an additional staff report rather late this afternoon.
Okay.
So that should be on all of your packets in front of you, so we can review it when it comes up.
Okay, so pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, this meeting will be conducted in person and via remote means in accordance with applicable law. This means that members of the Planning Board, as well as members of the public, may access this meeting in person or via virtual means. For this meeting, the Beverly Planning Board is convening in person in the City Council chambers at Beverly City Hall, and it is possible that any or all members of the public body may attend remotely, with in-person attendance consisting of members of the public. The meeting may also be accessed remotely via Google Meet. Details as to how to access this meeting remotely, such as login information, are identified in tonight's agenda meeting posted on the City of Beverly's website. When required by law or allowed by the chair, persons wishing to provide public comment or otherwise participate in the meeting may do so by in-person attendance or by accessing the meeting remotely, as noted above. This meeting is being recorded and broadcast live in real time via the city's BevCam YouTube channel. Accordingly, kindly be aware that other participants or viewers may be able to see and hear you, and anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. You have the option to turn off your video if you are participating via computer. All participants should keep their microphones or phones muted unless recognized by the chair in order to reduce background noise and feedback. Please wait until the person speaking has finished before moving ahead and speaking so that we can clearly hear all participants. Supporting materials that have been provided to members of this body are available from the Planning Department. Please contact Emily Hutchings to request supporting materials. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda. The ground rules for the meeting. Before turning to the first item on the agenda, I will cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. The chair will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will invite board members to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Again, please remember to mute your microphone when you are not speaking. If you are participating remotely, you may mute yourself or be muted by the meeting host by clicking the microphone mute, unmute icon, pressing the mute button on your telephone, or by pressing *6 on your telephone keypad. Please reserve the chat function for technical difficulties only and not for public comment. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please state your name and address or affiliation before speaking. Regarding public comment, after members have spoken, the chair may afford public comment as follows. The chair will first ask members of the public who wish to speak to identify their names and addresses only. If you are participating remotely, you may also raise your hand or write "me" in the chat function. Once the chair has a list of all public commenters, she will call on each by name. Finally, once again, please take care to speak loudly and clearly. And finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. Thank you. Our first agenda item is a subdivision approval not required plan for 44 Pickman Road. The applicants are Harold and Zelda Kaplan. My understanding is that they are not here with us tonight and no representative is available for them, but I think board members, you have in your packet a copy of the plan.
So that is correct. Their representative has taken ill, so she has requested that the planning board review this. If they so choose, she recognizes that the planning board may also decide to continue it. It is a fairly straightforward A&R. I will bring it up on the screen. I'd also like to note, I believe Rodney Sinclair has joined us virtually.
I just saw that up there. Thank you.
Emily, can we get online? There's a new passcode or something. I couldn't get
I
online.
believe it's Where Away.
It used to be, but I'm not sure that's working now.
I do not know the new password, then I'm sorry.
Rosebud, lowercase, try that, Rosebud.
What is, yeah, which network is it?
I had city council chambers Wi-Fi. I don't know if that can be found.
We just texted Counselor Feldman.
Thank you.
Okay, my understanding is that this parcel is in the, I think it's the R10 zone. The applicant has a total of 2.43 acres, which obviously is well in excess of 10,000 square feet required. Applicant is looking to subdivide the property and has added a lot line such that the new Lot A will have, looks like 23,300 square feet. I can't read it.
28.3.
Okay, thank you. I have old eyes.
28.3.
28,300 square feet, and the frontage, which has a required, I think it's 100 feet,
101.
and this has 101. The applicant will retain a 1.78 acres, which obviously is well in excess of the required 10,000 square feet, and will also have
108.
0.5.
feet of frontage. There are 3 criteria by which we determine whether or not a subdivision approval should be passed. And those 3 standards are as follows. The lots shown on the plan must front on one of 3 types of ways as specified in MGL Chapter 41, Section 81L. And these front on Pickman, is it Pickman Road? Pickman Road, which is a public way. The lots shown on the plan must meet the minimum frontage requirements as specified in Chapter 41, Section 81L. And clearly, these both meet minimum frontage requirements of 100 feet. Finally, the planning board's determination that the vital access to the lots is contemplated by Chapter 41, Section 81L otherwise exists. And clearly, both of these lots will have direct access from Pickman Road. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns from members of the board? I have to say that this seems pretty straightforward to me.
Yes.
Okay, without any questions from members of the board, then I would welcome a motion on this matter, please.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I'll move the question and move to endorse the subdivision plan approval not required for 44 Pickman Road with the applicant Harold and Zelda Kaplan.
Thank you. I have a motion by Ms. Flannery. Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Kraft. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call the roll. Sarah Bartley?
Yes.
Derek Beckwith?
Yes.
Alexander Kraft?
Yes.
Ellen Flannery?
Yes.
Wayne Miller?
Yes.
Rodney Sinclair?
Yes.
Brendan Sweeney?
Yes.
Andrea Toulouse?
Yes.
Ellen Hutchinson? Yes, motion passes unanimously. Our second agenda item is a public hearing for special permit number 180-21 and site plan review number 151-21 for 143 Brimble Avenue, construction of a 3-story addition with related site improvements with the change in use from social club, meeting hall to retail establishment and warehouse and fabrication headquarters for a rugs and carpeting business. The applicant is 143 Brimble Avenue LLC, care of Glovsky and Glovsky LLC. And I needed a motion to recess into public hearings, and I almost missed that.
So moved, Madam Chair.
I have a motion. Is there a second? I'll call the roll. Sarah Bartley?
Yes.
Derek Beckwith?
Yes.
Thank you. Alexander Kraft?
Yes.
Ellen Flannery?
Yes.
Wayne Miller?
Yes.
Rodney Sinclair?
Yes.
Brendan Sweeney?
Yes.
Andrea Toulouse?
Yes.
Ellen Hutchinson? Yes. So we are now in public hearings, and I would ask our Assistant Planning Director if she would read the public notice, please.
Notice is hereby given in accordance with Section 300-98, Section 300-44C2A, and 300-59D of the Beverly zoning ordinance. The Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, July 20th, 2021, during a public meeting that begins at 7 p.m. in Council Chambers, Beverly City Hall, 191 Cabot Street, Beverly, MA 01915, relative to special permit number 180-21 and site plan review number 151-21, construction of a 3-story addition with related site improvements, with the change in use from social club/meeting hall to retail establishment and warehouse and fabrication headquarters for a rugs and carpeting business. The property is located at 143 Brimble Avenue in the IR zoning district and is shown on Assessor's Map 55, Lot 19. The application and plans are on file in the Beverly Planning Department and are available for public review. Although the meeting will be held in person, remote access will be available. The website and phone line for the meeting are provided on the meeting agenda.
Thank you very much. We have received a communication from the applicant asking us if we would continue this public hearing to our September meeting, which is what date?
September 22nd.
So if members of the audience are here for this meeting, the applicant has asked that this be continued to that date. I would welcome a motion on this matter, please.
Madam Chair, I'll move to continue the public hearing, the special permit number 180-21 and site plan review number 151-21 at 143 Brimble Avenue to September 22nd, 2021.
I have a motion by Ms. Flannery. Is there a second?
Is it the 21st or 22nd?
22nd.
22nd?
It was moved.
Okay.
because,
Andrea.
yeah,
Okay.
Voting
I'll
day.
second. I wasn't gonna for that, but now election day.
All right. So we have a motion and a second to continue this public hearing to September 22nd, 2021. I will call the roll. Sarah Bartley?
Yes.
Derek Beckwith?
Yes.
Alexander Kraft?
Yes.
Ellen Flannery?
Yes.
Wayne Miller?
Yes.
Rodney Sinclair?
Yes.
Brendan Sweeney?
Yes.
Andrea Toulouse?
Yes.
Ellen Hutchinson, yes. So the motion passes unanimously. This public hearing will be continued to September 22nd, 2021. Our next agenda item is the public hearing, waiver of frontage and definitive subdivision plan for 75 Livingston Avenue. Applicants are Paul R. LaPena, Michael C. LaPena, Nancy J. Hadley, Marie J. Hadley, and Joanne Holhouse. Is there anyone appearing on behalf of the applicant? Oh, I'm sorry. Every time I think I'm doing well, I miss something. I have to have the notice read.
Notice is hereby given that under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Sections 81R and 81T, the Beverly Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, July 20th, 2021, during a public meeting that begins at 7 p.m. in Council Chambers, Beverly City Hall, 191 Cabot Street, Beverly, Massachusetts, relative to a request by Paul R. LaPena, Michael C. LaPena, Nancy J. Hadley, Marie J. Hadley, and Joanne Holhouse for a waiver of the frontage requirements of the zoning ordinance and for approval of a definitive subdivision plan entitled Frontage Waiver Subdivision Plan, dated June 9, 2021. The proposed subdivision plan seeks to create 2 lots at 75 Livingston Avenue, as shown on Assessor's Map 9, Lot 345, one with frontage on Livingston Avenue and one with frontage on Ashton Street. The application and plans are on file in the Beverly Planning Department and are available for public review. Although the meeting will be held in person, remote access is available, or a website and phone line for the meeting are provided on the meeting agenda. And Mr. Alexander, do you mind standing at the podium over there? Because there's a microphone up there.
It's almost like being remote out here. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the Planning Board. For the record, Tom Alexander with offices at 1 School Street in Beverly, here on behalf of the LaPena family. Just by way of quick history, the LaPenas have owned this property since 1963. The parents have passed away, and the 5 children continue to own it, one of whom, Paul, lives there. This is an unusual property in that it has frontage on 2 streets, on both Livingston Ave and on Ashton Street. And if you go through the neighborhood, you'll note that almost well in excess of 80% of the houses in this area have 50 feet of frontage, just like the 2 lots that are being created by way of this proposal. This neighborhood was built out in the early 1900s and was primarily workforce housing. Some of the lots were doubled up so that, like this one, so they're, and now you often find that people are seeking to divide them to actually, believe it or not, keeping in the neighborhood. As the zoning board actually granted a variance for this unanimously, and one of the comments that they made in their decision was this was very much in keeping with the neighborhood because over 50 lots in the immediate neighborhood have the same frontage as is being proposed here. In addition, 23 neighbors signed a petition for the ZBA variance, and so there's a lot of neighborhood support. The result of this is also there's an existing large 3-car garage that is down the Ashton Street end of this property. It is literally right on the lot line, and this would, if this goes through, that would be torn down and a house would be built in the area. As you know, this is in keeping with the policy of the state and the city in providing more affordable housing opportunities. I've had the opportunity myself to do several of these divisions of property throughout Rouse Side, and pretty much every single one is bought by a young couple or young people looking to start out. So I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you may have on this, and would respectfully request that you vote in favor of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander. Are there questions for Mr. Alexander, please? I'll ask a question then, if I may.
Sure.
You just specified, and I missed my notes, here they are, that approximately 50 properties in the neighborhood have similar frontage.
Yes.
What about the lot sizes?
The lot sizes are approximately the same. They're about 5,000 square feet. These are 4,800, I think one of them is, and let me double check that. But yeah, the lot sizes are all in the 4,000 to 5,000 square foot size, which these two lots are as well.
So even though this is an R10 zone, the majority of the lots are basically well under the R10?
Yeah, so this just kind of historically, going back in the 60s or 70s, the whole area was overzoned with R10 zoning, so it rendered a good chunk of Rouse Side non-conforming, which is kind of unfortunate for people who live there because all their houses are non-conforming. If they want to put an addition or something on, oftentimes they have to go to the ZBA as opposed to just getting a regular building permit. But anyways, that's neither here nor there, it's just an aside on that.
So, Mr. Alexander, on the Lot A, that garage will be taken down?
Yes.
And what about on Lot B? Does that dwelling remain?
Yes, it does, yep.
Okay. And so, did the ZBA grant the 8.1 feet side setback for Lot A?
They did, yes.
Okay. And how does that compare with other properties in the neighborhood?
It's in keeping with properties in the neighborhood. I believe the lot right next door has just about exactly the same setback.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Miller?
I'd like to ask a question of absolutely no relevance.
Sure.
Will another La Pena be living at the new residence?
Will who?
Another La Pena?
At the new residence?
Yeah.
No, but the one of the little Penas will continue to live at the house that is there, but the new house will not be occupied by a La Pena. At least not that I'm aware of.
Thank you.
Mr. Alexander, you said that you had approximately 25 people who signed a petition?
Yes, 23.
Were there any neighbors who refused to sign it on grounds other than they just don't feel like signing anything?
No.
Okay. Are there any other questions for the applicant?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Derek.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I'm trying to read virtually here from Columbus, Ohio, the schematic, and is the inset on each of these lots. What does that represent? The dotted lines on the inside, the one that's a rectangle in the lower, and the one that's more of a.
I believe that's the setbacks for the zoning. The side yard, rear yard, front yard setbacks.
For the zoning, but not for obviously. You have a waiver for the Ashton Street front one. So that's not 8 feet showing there.
The existing house is a pre-existing condition, so it's grandfathered. Yeah. And in the new proposed house, that a variance was granted for 8.1 feet, I believe.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Anything else? Okay. Is there anybody from the public who would like to be heard on this? Okay, hearing none. There's nobody, right?
I do not have anyone online, so.
Okay. And there's no one here in our audience who has indicated a desire to speak. So with that, I would welcome a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Kraft. Could I have a second on that, please?
I'll second, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I will call the roll on this motion to close the public hearing. Sarah Bartley?
Yes.
Derek Beckwith?
Yes.
Alexander Kraft?
Yes.
Ellen Flannery?
Yes.
Wayne Miller?
Yes.
Rodney Sinclair?
Yes.
Brendan Sweeney?
Yes.
Andrea Toulouse?
Yes?
Ellen Hutchinson? Yes. Okay. Motion passes unanimously. This public hearing is closed. Board members, our obligations are to look at two matters. One is to either grant or deny the waiver of the frontage, and then the second action would be to approve or deny a definitive subdivision plan. I propose we would take them one at a time, and I'd welcome a motion as you may deem appropriate.
Madam Chair, I would like to move that the planning board approve the waiver of frontage at 75 Livingston Avenue. Applicants Paul LaPenna, Michael LaPenna, Nancy Hadley, Marie J. Hadley, and Joanne Holhouse. In line with the zoning board of appeals conditions regarding the variances that were approved by the zoning board.
Excellent, thank you. I have a motion by Mr. Kraft. Is there a second on the motion, please?
I'll second.
This is Derek, I'll second.
Andrea beat you to it, my friend.
Sorry. Delay in Columbus will get you every time.
Is there any...
Wish I was there.
Oh, there he is. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call the roll. Sarah Bartley?
Yes.
Derek Beckwith?
Yes.
Alexander Kraft?
Yes.
Ellen Flannery?
Yes.
Wayne Miller?
Yes.
Rodney Sinclair?
Yes.
Brendan Sweeney?
Yes.
Andrea Toulouse?
Yes.
Ellen Hutchinson? Yes, motion passes unanimously. And that was to grant the waiver of frontage. The next action required of us is to either approve or deny the definitive subdivision plan. Please.
All right. I move that the planning board approve the definitive subdivision plan for 75 Livingston Avenue, in taking into consideration all of the conditions as laid out by the zoning board of appeals in their determination.
I have a motion by Mr. Kraft. Is there a second?
I'll second, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Was this the one that we had the letter from the Board of Health? Or am I thinking of something else?
Yes, you did, there was a letter from the Board of Health.
There was.
Okay.
Oh, I'm
Yep.
sorry.
There is a letter from the Board of Health with a set of standard conditions.
I'm wondering, can you, on the first standard condition, I'm wondering if we could, can you read that? I can't.
So the first condition stated on the Board of Health's recommendation letter states the applicant shall, prior to site work startup and demolition and during site construction, employ a licensed pest control firm for site evaluation and service. A copy of the service program is to be sent to the health and planning departments.
Okay, I'm wondering if we can, if we amend the motion to add a more definitive time or triggering event by which they have to send that service plan to those departments.
So typically, it is when the demolition permit is applied for, because that is effectively start of work, or a building permit. That is simply because it is the start of work.
Okay, so if we were to amend that condition, adding that the copy of service plan be provided, what is it, to the Board of Health and the Planning Department before the commencement of demolition and/or site work?
So before the issuance of if you want to tie it to the building permit or demolition permit, I would say prior to the issuance of a building permit or demolition permit.
Whichever occurs first.
Whichever occurs first. The copy of the service program for pest control is to be sent to the health and planning departments.
Okay. Does everybody understand what we're thinking about here, which is just the copy of the service plan it's a standard condition, it needs to be sent to Health Department, Planning Department, but when I read it, there was no sense of when it had to be done, and I just was wondering if we might want to make it a little bit more specific. And so I'm wondering, would you?
I'm happy to amend the motion.
I
Madam
appreciate
Chair.
that, thank you.
So I'd like to amend the motion to approve the definitive subdivision plan for 75 Livingston Avenue, taking into consideration the conditions on the zoning board of appeals. Also, board taking into terms the conditions for both the board, from the standard conditions outlined in the Board of Health letter. Specifically, I'd like to condition that the pest remediation plan be provided to the Beverly Board of Health prior to the issuance of the demolition permit or building permit, whichever occurs first.
That's great.
And the planning. is
And the
health
planning department.
And the planning department.
I
So
apologize.
submit, that's okay.
I'll amend my,
Ms. Flannery seconds that amended motion. Is there any further discussion on this motion? Hearing none, I'll call the roll. Sarah Bartley,
Yes.
Derek Beckwith,
Yes.
Alexander Kraft,
Yes.
Ellen Flannery,
yes.
Wayne Miller,
Yes.
Rodney Sinclair,
Yes.
Brendan Sweeney,
Yes.
Andrea Toulouse,
Yes.
Ellen Hutchinson. Yes, motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Chair and
Thank
members
you.
of the Planning Board. You might want to consider recalling this hand sanitizer. It just splurted all over the place on me, so it's something the matter with the dispenser.
It's probably just like a clog.
It's by design. We want to soak you.
Okay, let's
Mission accomplished. Sanitizer butter stuck in there.
let's
Call it my sanitizer butter.
just want to take a minute and just get a little bit organized again, papers. Okay, our next agenda item is a modification to site plan review number 142-19. The property located at 175 Elliott Street. The applicant is Kessel Booz Associates.
Okay.
Yes.
Sir, if you could give us your name and address, and I will turn the floor over to you, so to speak, and you can make your presentation.
Okay, my name is David McKinley. I'm a registered landscape architect in Massachusetts. I work for Castle Booz, who's representing the city. We're the ones who designed and are helping build the building. And my address is 16 Chestnut Street in Foxborough, Massachusetts.
Okay? And you can move ahead with your presentation if you'd like.
Okay, and I think Emily's going to put up a drawing here.
Here we go.
Basically, as you know, we've already been in front of you several times. We made the initial presentation of the entire plan. We made some modifications to the entrance per the city's requirements in terms of coming in and out. And the areas we are requesting to make some changes are in red here. The city would like to add some more visitor parking on the outside of the secure area. Be 8 spaces there for a total of about 3,500 square feet. And this area is basically, this parking would be used by either the police staff or by visitors to the police station during training. We would also like to add another basically 1,900 square feet to the impound area to enlarge that. The impound area is used for vehicle processing and storage for vehicles that should not be tampered with after accidents or busts or things like that. We've provided drainage plans for these. We've provided, we modified the planting plan in terms of just pushing the plants up against Elliott Street, but we haven't reduced, we've taken no plants away and just reused them and repositioned them. One of the advantages of this additional asphalt is that the city would like very much to and is looking into adding some solar power or panels for this area, which they want to put over the asphalted areas, the parking on the east and the north side of the building. And this would allow them to expand some of that, provide a little bit more solar display on this. That's pretty much the presentation, so.
Are there questions from members of the board for the applicant?
Madam Chair, this is Derek.
Hi, Derek. Go ahead, please.
Yes, you know, how many square feet is this? About approximately 5,000? What's the square footage?
Yeah, the parking is about 3,500, and the addition for the impound is about 1,900.
Okay, so I'm curious, with all of the significant pre-planning and all of the minds that looked at this, how is it that 5,000 square feet of asphalt are now being asked for this late in the process? I'm just curious on that.
Can I speak to that, David?
Yes, you certainly may, Chief.
So in optimizing the solar, we had a solar engineer come out and look at the property. The west side of the parking lot off Center Drive.
Chief, I'm just going to interrupt you.
Anticipation of putting 2 large banks of solar panels over that part of the parking lot. When the study was coming in, it not only blocked the visibility to the entrance to the police station, maybe from motorists on Elliott Street,
So,
but we
Chief,
also determined
sorry,
that the building
Chief.
itself in the winter would shade a lot of those solar panels and may be somewhat ineffective. So we walked the property again and realized that we had this empty space that we could utilize for solar panel and also by
Chief
putting, additional
Lalacher, can I
parking.
interrupt you for a second?
Again, when we compromised on Cummings property, one of the things we did do is we reduced the amount of public parking, we reduced the amount of secured parking spots on the north side of the building so there'd be more public spots for the meeting room, which holds approximately 40 people. So by doing this, we pick up an additional overage for parking to keep our tenants, or I should say our visitors, onto our property and not on the Cummings property, which is advantageous to them as well. Also, one thing we've realized too is we take in a lot of lost and stolen bicycles. If you've ever been to City Hall and see the amount of bicycles on the side of the building, this small impound lot would only hold 3 cars maybe. Cars we seize that we have to sometimes hold for 1 or 2 years while trials go on. And so this will also give us the additional area for additional cars and to store bicycles, motorcycles, things like that that may become that are either lost or stolen property.
So, Chief, I apologize. We were trying to get a hold of you, but we had a hard time hearing you for the beginning of that. Can you give us a summary of the beginning of what you said?
So it needs to introduce who it is.
Yep, absolutely. Can you hear me any better? Emily?
No, this is Chief Lalacher speaking for this on behalf of the city and the police department.
And any better, Emily?
Yes.
Okay. So again, once we had the solar engineering company come in and look at the property, they realized, and we were kind of didn't want to have a solar array on the west side of the building on the Center Drive area due to the fact that it would block the entrance or the visibility of the entrance to the police station, and also the sun on that side of the building in the winter would not be advantageous. When the engineers from the solar company looked at it, they realized that this area was unused space that could certainly be used for solar. And the way, kind of in addition to what I also said, we can only have canopy over asphalt. We can't do canopy over grass. So by adding additional parking spaces, which will help us with our community room parking so that people don't park in the Cummings lot, we'll also be able to take advantage of the solar panels, the elevated solar panels that we'll be able to put over these parking spaces. And then I don't know if you heard me on the addition to the storage of the impound lot. When it was built for 3 vehicles. We realized that, we don't have space for found bicycles, stolen bicycles that would recover that right now are kept at City Hall. So by putting asphalt down here also, it gives us the advantage of the solar panels and place to store other types of property that we may not have.
Okay, thank you. Derek, did you want to follow up?
I understand the benefits of solar, very in favor of it. It just seems that environmentally, paving 5,000 square feet of grass, we're giving something up, and I am trying to look through. I don't have a printed packet of information. I was trying to go back through to the digital paperwork. But were there some comments environmentally in terms of what this might be? I don't know if it was storm drain, runoff, or anything like that. What are the environmental impacts of this?
So I can speak a little bit to that, if I may. So this does require a minor modification with the Conservation Commission, but environmentally there is really minimal impact. This area is all paved right now. So what the improvements that would be made to the landscaping are all new landscaping, all new trees that would be going in, all new green space. So no pavement would be added. In general, it's added to this plan, but not overall. And so there would be a filing of a minor modification with the Conservation Commission, and that they would review it due to its proximity to wetlands and the coast, but that is effectively it.
Okay, so there isn't a net increase in asphalt then?
No.
I'm wrong on that, okay? That's correct?
Madam Chair?
Anything else, Derek?
No, thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Mr. Miller?
Yeah, I'm not an expert in the field, but I would suggest that the environmental impact would be when weighing greenhouse gas generation versus greenhouse gas mitigation. And it would be, I think, quite evident that the benefit of this project in mitigating greenhouse gases that would otherwise be used to generate energy far outweigh by probably 2 orders of magnitude the deleterious effect of having less or having more impervious surface there. I think it's vastly favors this addition of solar in this site.
Mr. Chairman, if I can also make a further comment on that?
Sure. May I ask that you keep your voice up? It's a little bit difficult hearing you.
I'm as close as I can be to my microphone. And I know there's a considerable difference between people on the Zoom call and people in the meeting. It's considerably different. So again, this was parking lot prior. When we took over this 2-acre lot, it was a parking lot. Our intention was originally to spruce it up a little bit, but after the engineering study from the solar company, we realized we're either going to do ground mount panels here, or we can do asphalt elevated and have the elevated panels. So 6 and 1/2 dozen another. There's going to be solar panels there and no grass probably because, and I know Mr. Kinley can talk to it also, this is either going to be ground mount with stone underneath it or asphalt with the elevated panels.
Okay, was this originally, I know it's asphalt now. Was it supposed to be a grassed area and now it's going back to asphalt?
It was initially a grass area in our initial plan. Emily, can you go to the last plan? So the last plan basically shows all these trees that are up against Elliott Street were kind of, scattered around that lawn area. I think one of the advantages, and Emily kind of pointed it out to me, is the fact that now that the trees are up against the sidewalk, they actually provide a little bit more shade as well to the passersby on the sidewalk, and give probably a little bit more privacy or separation between the police station and the public space. So we think it's not that they won't block the solar panels or anything like that. They won't get that high, but it looks a little cleaner, we think, than having all the plants were just right up against the fence. But these are the changes. I mean, Like I said earlier, we have not removed any plants at all. We just moved them around.
So, yeah, and to clarify on that, there was some additional green space that was primarily in the southern parking lot. So that has been removed. As David pointed out, the trees were interspersed. And so there is a reduction in green space, but there is not a reduction in plantings. And they are instead, I think the planning department feels positioned appropriately relative to street and pedestrian access.
Do we have a copy of the original, the plan that was approved?
Ooh. That, I did not provide that as part of this package. But it's basically exactly what you're seeing here. The blue box was the impound area, and all the red was basically lawn.
That was grass, okay.
It was grass.
That was grass, okay.
Okay. And is it that there is a legitimate need for these 8 additional parking spaces, or are these parking spaces designed to accommodate a canopy in order to allow for solar panels?
Honestly, I would say it's actually both. We need the spaces because, as the chief pointed out above, we changed the location of the entrance to the fence so that the actual secure parking is about 20 spaces less than we had. So to turn over to visitor parking. So we kind of need these spaces as well. It should be pointed out that the entrance here that you see coming into the Sallyport in this area is for police use only. It is not a public access at all. The only public access would be coming off the Cummings Drive on the west side of the site. So this is really only strictly for police use business.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Mayor, did you wish to address Planning Board?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just a couple of thoughts to try to help clarify. As you heard the chief say, we did during the course of design move the gate back along the side of the building to provide more public spaces. So so that was one step. And then looking at, we worked through with our solar design, our solar developer, because they had to win we actually had to bid the project. We brought the developer in. And so they did all the shading studies. They were, looking to max out the solar capabilities. As a building that's going to be, its heating and cooling is through geothermal, which will be run by a ground source heat pump system, and that's electric. So all the heating and cooling will be electric, as will be the electricity, obviously. So, and a building like that, that'll be operational 24 hours a day, every day of the year, with the goal of making it carbon neutral or net zero, it's a challenge. And so we need to max out the amount of solar that we can site there. We then had to make further adjustments. The shading took away some options on solar. And then we had to work with the fire department to ensure that they could safely and quickly get access to the building in case of a fire event. So that took out some additional solar. So part of the motivation here clearly is to make sure that we have enough solar. The parking is needed as well. So I think you heard Dave say that, yeah, it's both. So it really is. It would be nice if the state regulations didn't require pavement under canopy. We ran into this down at McPherson when we wanted the canopy to overhang the grass a bit on the side of the property, and we weren't able to do that. So, the necessity of adding the paved area for that purpose is real, and it is important to the project. Hope that's helpful.
It is. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A question for the applicant on the increase in the impound area. The original impound area was sufficient to handle 3 cars. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And the expansion of that impound site is now designed to handle how many cars?
It's really a question of organization. As the chief pointed out, there's not just going to be cars in there. There's trailers, bicycles, motorcycles. So it really depends on how much is in there and how they kind of push it around and organize it. Cars are obviously the things that need to be closest to the gates because getting them in and out is going to be hard. But the back spaces can be certainly used for other vehicles and things that have to be impounded or stored.
Thank you. Other questions, comments from members of the board? Wayne?
Just a question. Do you know how many kilowatts additional solar this plan would provide? I would guess it's 60 to 100 kilowatts.
I do not know that. Perhaps the mayor knows. I don't know.
Well, just basing it on the square footage, I would guess that you're somewhere around 60 to 100. That's a couple of homes worth of solar. And this police station will certainly use all the solar that is provided. And that offset, as the mayor mentioned, we're shooting for 100% there. It would be great if we could get there.
Other questions, comments? Okay, our course of action is to make an initial determination as to whether these changes are minor in nature or major in nature. The difference in the two is that if they are minor, we can vote on them tonight. If the board considers these to be major, then we have to take the next step and schedule a public hearing. So that being said, I would welcome a motion as to the minor or major modification that are before us.
I could make a motion.
All right?
In this matter, I would move that the board find the changes to be minor in nature.
There is a motion that we deem these changes to be minor modifications. Thus, if approved by us, we could vote on these tonight. Is there a second on the motion, please?
I'll second, Madam Chair.
Oh, that was Rodney. Okay. Thank you, Rodney. Is there further discussion on the motion, please? Hearing none, I will call the roll. Sarah Bartley?
Yes.
I'm sorry?
Yes.
Thank you. Derek Beckwith?
Yes.
Alexander Kraft?
Yes.
Ellen Flannery?
Yes.
Wayne Miller?
Yes.
Rodney Sinclair?
Yes.
Brendan Sweeney?
Yes.
Andrea Toulouse?
Yes.
Ellen Hutchinson? Yes. Motion passes. These modifications are deemed to be minor in nature. Now the question is to whether or not approve them or not. I'd welcome a motion on this, please. Anyone?
I'll give it a shot.
Ellen's on it.
Oh, go ahead, Rodney.
All right. I move to approve the SPR number 142-19, minor modification to include 1,884 square feet of asphalt and 3,491 square feet of asphalt and 8 parking spaces for the overflow parking.
So just to clarify.
And I'm sure I chopped that all up. My apologies.
No. You did good, Rodney. Just to clarify, just to make it clean, it might be beneficial to approve as presented, just so all of the changes are covered.
Okay.
Are there more?
No, but it's just.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to ask you, Rodney, if you could just restate your motion, please. Well, we've lost your sound, my friend.
I move to approve the modification for SPR number 142-19 as presented.
Sounds good to me. Is there a second on that?
This is Derek.
All right, Derek seconds it. Discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call the roll. Sarah Bartley?
Yes.
Derek Beckwith? Yes. Alexander Kraft?
Yes.
Ellen Flannery?
Yes.
Wayne Miller?
Yes.
Rodney Sinclair?
Yes.
Brendan Sweeney?
Yes.
Andrea Toulouse?
Yes.
Ellen Hutchinson? Yes, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, here it is. Okay. Our next agenda item is modification to site permit number 168-18. The property is located at 232 Rantoul Street, and the applicant is NOMSG Properties, LLC. Is there anyone on behalf of the applicant present?
Yes, Michael Smith.
Oh. Mr. Smith, could you give us your name, your address? I'd ask you to keep your voice up, and I'll turn the floor over to you.
Sure. Michael Smith. My address is 15 Everett Payne Boulevard in Marblehead. We are requesting to modify a special permit. We applied in 2018 for deviation from parking requirements pursuant to section 359D and 359E. Due to limited space on our property, we weren't able to comply with the parking requirements. And our special permit back then approved to have 3 on-site parking spots instead of the 12 required. So what we're doing now, or requesting now, is permission to, we're looking to turn those 3 parking spots, that area where the 3 parking spots are, looking to turn that into some outdoor seating space for our customers. And we are proposing to surrender our 3 curb cuts in the road to allow those to go back to street parking. So essentially the 3 on-site parking spots that were approved in the 2008 special permit, and then the 1 on-street parking spot, total of 4 spots, we're looking to turn into 4 on-street parking spots. Permission to do that, obviously. And that's really pretty much it.
Questions for the applicant from members of the board?
This is Derek.
Go ahead, Derek.
Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have you been using that area for outdoor dining in the meantime during COVID?
Yes, we have.
Okay. And I'm just curious, was there any sort of, since you took away the parking spaces, you have a tent up, I believe, right?
Yeah, yes, we did have a tent for a while. Right now we don't. It's just some tables and stools.
Okay, so how is that,
benches.
how was the parking requirement handled in that interim? Was there some sort of relief?
Nothing official, no. So yes, no, there was nothing officially brought to us in terms of a relief.
Okay, I was just thinking perhaps there was some precedent to this already having officially been in effect for a period of time. So how long have you been doing that?
Since, when did we start doing it? Like last November, I believe?
Hey, this is Ben. I'm one of the owners of Old Planners with Mike. I think we actually started it in the spring of 2020. So back in, I'd say May. Or actually, no. I think we did it in the end of June 2020. So.
And while that was happening, were cars parking in the area that you're looking to remove the curb cuts?
Yes, cars have always parked there.
Yep.
To be totally honest, cars, so the 3 spots that are designated our on-site parking, no one ever parks in. There's a garage door there, and I don't know if people, I mean, we say, you know, parking here, but I don't know if people are just afraid to park in front of the garage door. So people rarely park in those 3 spots as is, but people always park in these spots the on-street spots in front of the building.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Other questions from members of the board? Wayne?
I'm shuffling through the paperwork to see if there's any comment from parking and traffic on this.
So, no, they did not go before the Parking and Traffic Commission, and I apologize, this staff report was a bit late. We were waiting on some comments. So this is something that could go before the Parking and Traffic Commission. The Planning Board could refer this to the Parking and Traffic Commission to review. Or if they determine it's minor enough, you could make a decision tonight.
Yeah.
The solicitor's office, the building department, and the solicitor's office provided some comments that are on the staff report. The building department noted that if there is no on-site parking, there is no requirement for a handicapped parking space. So the one handicapped parking space that was in that original parking area would no longer be required. So no signage or anything would be required for any of those 4 proposed parking spaces. There was some discussion with the legal department on whether the applicant could retain the driveway curb cut for loading and unloading in off hours, but allow for parking along the curb cut when the brewery is open, which is the goal and what's necessary to create, and Mike and Ben, correct me if I'm wrong, to create that patio. And the legal department did note that they would defer to the Parking and Traffic Commission. They would not necessarily state one way or the other, but they would defer to them.
Hey, it's a follow-up question.
Go ahead.
Is there any agreement with the Nacho Taco next door, and how many spaces do they have, and is there any joint use proposed?
We don't have anything in place with them now.
And theirs is all marked that you can't.
I know it is. Their hours are, I don't think coincident. I don't know when Nacho Taco is going to be open.
I believe the hours are similar.
Yeah, they're similar.
Yeah, they're similar. It works in our favor to be open at the same time as them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
Tacos and beer, good combo.
Even better when they start sliding the burger, the things down to the other. At any rate, I think this is something that probably should go before Parking and Traffic for comment.
Absolutely, Madam Chair.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. So there is now just one parking space there in front of your property that's been identified as P4?
Correct. Per the 2018 special permit, that is correct.
And what you're proposing is to eliminate the 3 on-site parking spaces and remove the curb cuts, which would in essence, I think it's your contention, would shift those parking spaces from on-site to on the street. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And Emily, can I ask you, is that appropriate if the curb cuts are taken away, that creates 3 additional parking spaces on the street?
Yes, if the curb cuts are not used, it would create 3 additional spaces.
Okay. I concur with my board members that I'd like Parking and Traffic to weigh in on this. So I would...
So a motion might be to refer it to the Parking and Traffic Commission and to continue the modification to the August 17th hearing.
Do we know when when Parking and Traffic meets?
The Parking and Traffic Commission meets on August 3rd.
Okay, and we meet later in the month, right?
That is correct, on the 17th.
Okay, so I would...
Sorry.
Go ahead, Wayne.
Is there any sense to determining this to be not a minor modification and calling for a public hearing?
It's
that
a special
given?
permit, so
Special permit.
it's a modification of special permit.
Yeah, so it's different, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's,
What would be the
it would be
ramifications, I
appropriate-
guess?
I think it would be appropriate to wait until Parking and Traffic Commission has weighed in.
I agree.
I do.
Okay, so let's do, I would welcome two motions in this. One would be to, if deemed appropriate, to refer this matter to the Parking and Traffic Commission, and for us to continue this discussion to our next meeting.
Can make a motion.
Go ahead, Zane.
So I move that in the modification of special permit 168-18, 232 Rantoul Street, NOMSG Properties LLC. This matter be referred to Parking and Traffic, and they can provide their expertise on allowing parking along the curb cut while the brewery is open, and then for the proposed changes that the applicant has provided.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Kraft. Is there a second, please? Seconded by Ms. Flannery. Discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call the roll. Sarah Bartley?
Yes.
Derek Beckwith?
Yes.
Alexander Kraft?
Yes.
Ellen Flannery?
Yes.
Wayne Miller?
Yes.
Rodney Sinclair?
Yes.
Brendan Sweeney?
Yes.
Andrea Toulouse?
Yes.
Ellen Hutchinson? Yes. Motion passes unanimously. Want to take a shot at the
Sure.
second one?
I move to continue modification to special permit number 168-18, 232 Rantoul Street, NOMSG Properties LLC, to the Planning Board's August 17th meeting, 2021.
Thank you. Seconded by Ms. Flannery. Discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call the roll. Sarah Bartley?
Yes.
Derek Beckwith?
Yes.
Alexander Kraft?
Yes.
Ellen Flannery?
Yes.
Wayne Miller?
Yes.
Rodney Sinclair?
Yes.
Brendan Sweeney?
Yes.
Andrea Toulouse?
Yes.
Ellen Hutchinson? Yes. Okay, this matter is continued to our August Planning Board? August 17th Planning Board meeting. And in the meantime, we are going to refer this matter to Parking and Traffic and ask them to weigh in on the issue. I don't want to call a recess, but can we just take like 2 minutes to straighten our paperwork out?
So moved.
No, I'm not, no. I'm not gonna call ask for a recess, but just take a,
The 30-second timeout,
Yeah.
not a
yeah,
full.
not a full time.
Not a full time.
Temporary one.
I know.
Because
I heard these earlier.
It's not as funky as City Hall's music on hold.
Sorry?
So the music is not as funky as City Hall's music on hold.
okay, that comes last.
Sounds like Debussy.
Everybody all set? All righty. Thank you. Okay, that goes there. Okay, our next agenda item, unfortunately, is a modification to site plan review 146-19, 0 Everett Street, 718 Hale Street. The applicant is 0 Everett Street LLC.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the Planning Board. Thank you for the opportunity to present this modification to you this evening. Just by way of background, you probably remember this was a somewhat contentious permitting process that the neighbors were not happy, especially about initially the first floor commercial use of the property, but the permit was granted, the site plan review for that. Upon further review, the builder, Mr. Skomersky, who was the principal, decided that, maybe it did make sense to make this 100% residential. So it came back before this board, redesigned, so it still had 2 units, but rather than first floor commercial and second floor 2 residential units, the whole project was redesigned to, quite similarly actually, but to be 100% residential. So this project was built out during the pandemic, and there were some issues that people had to deal with during the pandemic. All of us did, and the communication was not always as good as it could have been between the folks doing the building and the city inspectors. In addition, Mrs. Skomersky had experience with a project actually just a half a mile down the street at the corner of Thistle and Hale that was quite similar to this one, and had made some minor changes in the course of that, which did not require any modification of the plans. So in any event, through a series of events, some changes were made in the property, and when it came time to issue the occupancy permits, the units were under agreement, ready to close, and the fact that there was some discrepancies was picked up, and so the building inspector issued temporary occupancy certificates with the understanding that Mr. Skomersky would come back before this board and seek modifications for the changes. And so that's why we are here today. By the way, I think you've probably had the opportunity to look at it. It has come out very nice. And in fact, many of the neighbors that were not happy with the original design have gone out of their way to visit Mr. Skomersky while building it and while he was selling the units to compliment him on how attractive it came out. So could I approach, I know you want me to be back here, but I need to be able to show you these things up close. If
You know what I would love to see?
What?
I would like you to show us, for each modification that you would like for us,
Yeah,
I want to see what we approved
yes.
and what was built.
Okay, I can do that. I have that exactly done. Could I approach though?
Of course.
Okay, thank you.
Just don't breathe. Just don't breathe.
So we provided you with these plans, which are the elevation plans, and also the landscape plan that was approved. Also, we provided you with a number of photos that show the modifications. Okay, so if I may, so on the elevation plans, you can see kind of a cloud area around on the left-hand side. Do you see what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay, so that is what was approved. Okay, and on the right-hand side, it's the same elevation. So this is at the top. We have the north elevation, which is, and that's what it looked like as approved. This is what it looks like as built. Okay? And then down here, below that, we have the west elevation, which is the Everett Street side. Again, in the clouded area is what was approved, and over here shows what it looks like presently.
Okay, so we're missing the 4, what do we call them, gables?
Gables.
So 4 gables that were part of the approved design were not built.
Well, no, they were built. It's just that in the clouded area, do you see that there was like a little blank area, more or less, that was done. Instead of doing that, there were shingles put in and following with the rest of the house.
Right, the decorative touches on that were not,
Yes, exactly. That decorative touch was changed to just shingles.
okay.
Okay. So, if I may, I would like to take you through one by one.
Yes, please.
Okay, so, number one is on the west elevation, okay? So that's front page down below. You see the circled area in the middle?
Yes.
Okay, so that was a gable. And you can see over here to the left that rather than being a gable, it was extended from peak to peak. It was, rather than being a dormer, so to speak, it was, that stopped, it was extended from peak to peak. You got that? And I can show you on the photos that I gave you, that's what it looks like right here, right at the top.
Okay.
The next one was the replacing the wood slats on the east elevation with, to give more privacy, with the shingles again. And you can see that on the second page of elevations. You can see that right here. So in the encircled area there, you can see it was slats that were done. And over here, there were, it was shingled in. Again, this is, and the reason for this is that this is on the second floor. It overlooks the neighbor's property. This gives the unit owners more privacy so that they're not looking through the slats at the neighbors and the neighbors aren't looking through at them. On the landscaping plan, the next one is...
Excuse me, Mr. Alexander, does
Sure.
that cover all of the requested changes to the building itself?
No.
The banding.
The banding, yeah, that's, we're not requesting we're not, although we requested that of the DRB, and that they did not grant it, and so we are okay with that. We're not requesting that, so Mr. Skomersky is going to go out and put the banding in.
And this is the banding in the middle of the,
Yes.
okay.
Okay?
So the banding, regardless of how we vote tonight, the banding will be done.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, just if we might go to the landscaping plan for a minute. And we're seeking to replace the bluestone walkway, which was a leftover from when this was a commercial project. So if you look at this, right in the front along Hale Street, there was a bluestone walkway that was proposed. And that was originally done because this was going to be a retail unit, and it made sense to have a walkway from the retail unit back to the parking area. Now that it's, excuse me, not retail, the retail. Now that it's all commercial, there's no need for that, and it's a residential use. And so we have, we want to get rid of that and just have it be, as we did get rid of it, yes, as a lawn, which really goes more with the residential use, and it actually looks really good.
Was it not contemplated that people might exit from that residential entry that fronts on Hale Street and then walk to the back of the building where the cars are parked?
Well, I think that there's an internal way for them to get to those.
That's not the front door of the building, the front door is on Everett Street. Right?
But nonetheless, that's an entry, correct?
Right. They can go. The other thing too is the area.
Mr. Skomersky, sorry, the people
it's-
online,
that's
we
my
have a
fault.
hard time hearing you. Can you speak into the microphone?
So you want to come up, Joe, and speak?
Joe Skamersky for the record. So the walkway was eliminated because the distance from the building to the back of the rock wall was narrow, and there wasn't enough room to put the walkway in with all the planting, so we eliminated that. And I think the DRB was all right with that.
They were, yeah. All of them that I've mentioned thus far, the DRB voted in favor of those modifications.
Right, right.
So that's what I'm doing. I'm starting off with the ones that the DRB voted that they were okay with, and then I'll go to the ones that they were not okay with. I'll end up with that.
So you're saying DRB was fine with the removal or the failure to construct the bluestone walkway?
Correct.
And what's there now? Just pure grass?
Pure grass, yeah. In fact, there's a photo here that shows what that looks like, right here, what I gave you. And it looks like a residence, you know. It's a little grass area out in front. Plus, there's, you know, plantings along the foundation itself, which we've done. The next one was on the landscaping plan. You see these little islands going out here and here, into the parking area? So we requested that those be removed because it's difficulty from a safety perspective to get a car around that island. And in fact, there's already in the street a curb that this photo shows you. The curb goes out, and that would go out even. See, the cars have to, if that was in there, they have to go out and around and then in. It's very difficult to do. Now, so what the DRB granted that request as regards as you face the property, the one on the left. You were there for that, right? And then, but did not grant the one on the right.
So are we talking about these, what I would call a tail?
Yes.
This? Okay.
Yeah, so
So you want this tail?
That one, the DRB agreed with.
To eliminate?
To eliminate. This one, they did not. The next one, again, on the landscape plan, if you look along the top here, there's a wall along here with some landscaping. Okay? On the as-built plan, you can see that what was done is it jogged in for the last piece here along the parking lot to provide for greater snow storage, right from here to here. And the as-built plan that we gave you shows that right here. That's the jog. And I have a photo of it. It actually looks pretty nice.
Is this it, Mr. Alexander?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, exactly. This is the photo that shows the jog.
So, sorry, point of clarification. The wall along kind of parallel to the structure?
Yes.
That was what we approved, or the jog?
No, you had approved the wall all the way to the street, and what we're looking for is for a jog to allow for more area for snow storage right there where the jog is.
Okay.
Yeah, all of these thus far have been approved, but I'll tell you when we're switching over from those approved by the DRB. Everything I've done.
You do realize we are not bound by DRB?
I know that, yeah, no, I'm just wanting for clarification.
That's fine.
So you'll know that. The next thing is in the rear of the property, on the landscape, again, kind of where we were looking at the wall, but there's a walkway, and the original approval had that as bluestone, and it was changed to pavers, which is the same material that the house, the units have for their patios, which is right around the corner. So this shows you right here on this photo what the walkway looks like.
You know, Mr. Alexander, Mr. Sikorsky, if you had one or two of these changes, I would understand the inadvertence and problems from COVID. But the cumulative effect of all of these, it's incredible. You know what, I litigate for a living, and when I write a brief to the appeals court tells me what my margins have to be, what my font has to be, how many pages I can write. When I do the appendix to the brief, they tell me what order everything has to be in, and I submit it. And then I hold my breath while they go through it to make sure that I have followed every single step. And if I don't follow every single step, you know what they do? They send it back to me and they say, Ms. Hutchinson, do it again. I can't ask for forgiveness. This is like the second or third time we've been back here. Instead of you coming before us, and we've met every month since COVID, every month. Instead of asking permission, you've repeatedly come back and asked us for forgiveness. Go ahead, Mr. Alexander.
Okay, the last change that the DRB granted was along the property line where with the other neighbor along the Hale Street side of the property. It had a row of arborvitaes. They were replaced with a row of Bartlett pear trees.
Arborvitaes were changed to Bartlett pear trees.
Correct. Yep. Bradford pear trees. Oh, Bradford pear. Okay. Yeah.
I'm sorry, what was the comment?
The arborvitaes were changed. It was changed from arborvitaes to Bradford pear.
And where are these on the
Okay,
on the
so
original?
on this plan, they are along this boundary right here.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
I believe that the neighbor on that side was favorably inclined towards that replacement.
I'm sorry, what was the comment?
I believe that the neighbor along that side, Rusty Brown, was in favor of that. He owns the property along this side.
Is Bradford pear.
Bradford pear, yep.
No doubt a native species, right?
Okay, so those are the ones that were approved by the Design Review Board. In addition, we were seeking what we spoke with at the beginning, the gable details at the top that had shown it as kind of a white blank space, replacing that with shingles. That's on the elevation plan. See where that circle there, where the gables are circled up at the top?
Yep.
What are you saying?
So that shows as a kind of a flat white space at the top of the gable. And what that was replaced with was continuation of the shingles over on this side of the plan. Everybody follow that? So
Could you say it again, Counselor?
okay, so right here.
What elevation do you want?
Well, it's shown on, I'm on the Hale Street south elevation. So here, this is the detail circled, and this is what
That's
it
the
came up
as-built,
as. Okay? Everyone able to follow that? So this is the detail like this, and this is what it
That's the
was done.
as-built.
That's the as-built, correct.
And the DRB was okay, not okay with it?
Not okay with this.
No, I was just going to say, we weren't okay with it.
Because this is
Just
the
switched.
Okay.
This is the first not okay thing.
Yeah.
this is
Say hello.
the elevation facing Hale Street.
Yes.
Okay.
So which was the specific?
What was approved?
Yep.
Hold on a second, Derek. Hold on, please.
Having that as blank space at the top, it was shingled.
Okay.
Okay?
And, Madam Chair, may I?
Actually, Derek had a question first. Derek, go ahead.
So there are 8 occurrences of that in this building, right? In this of the as-built eliminating that feature 8 times.
1, 2.
Am I correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yep. All the peaks, rather than having the blank space, have shingles.
Okay. Shingles everywhere.
Yes, that's in fact true. And the next change was the second planting area on the Hale Street side. So there's 2 planting areas. One against the house, which was done, and the other one is against the sidewalk, which we're seeking to modify and not do that. And the reason for that is it's a pretty narrow space. The ones along the foundation would not get as much light, and aesthetically it makes for a nice out front lawn.
Excuse me?
The last thing that we're looking for is what we spoke about earlier on the. Remember we talked about the 2 areas on Everett Street that. I'm sorry, Madam Chair. What was the term you used for those?
Tails.
Tails. Yeah, the 2 tails. So the one was granted by the DRB. We're also seeking that the other tail be removed. Yeah.
So is it fair for me to conclude that there are pretty radical changes to the landscape plan?
Well, there are, I guess...
Let me change that. Not radical, but significant.
I guess I would say...
Substantive changes,
Substantive, okay.
I would say pragmatic changes, Madam Chair, that
Well, I
don't
guess-
think really made a difference in terms of the aesthetics of it, but...
It certainly wasn't what was approved by this board and what was recommended by DRB. Ms. Flannery, did you have something you wanted to?
I just wanted, Madam Chair, thank you. The gables, all 8 are being addressed.
Correct. All 8.
All 8.
Yes. So all 8 were not approved by the DRB, but we are seeking approval of that.
And can I ask, the plantings that are along the Hale Street wall, I mean, the wall of the house that faces Hale Street, were those the plantings that were recommended or approved?
So the plantings along the house were the ones that were approved.
Okay.
And
Mr. Miller?
return.
I have to inquire about the Bradford pears. Are they planted now?
Oh, everything's...
They're planted now. Yes.
They are?
Yeah.
Okay. I ask because is the area underneath those trees meant to be planted with grass?
Is the area underneath the Bradford pears intended to be planted with grass? No.
Planted with arborvitaes with mulch, I guess, you know. But we have a 6-foot stockade fence that runs down the whole property line.
So you got Bradford pears and arborvitaes?
No, just Bradford pears.
Okay, but there's no grass in that area. Is that what you're saying?
There's a rock wall there, so below the rock wall is all grass.
Okay, and
So you can see it somewhat here, along the fence here. These are the Bradford pears.
okay, I'm really curious about that choice. They have, Bradford pears have some, what's sometimes described as an atrocious odor. The smell of Bradford pears is akin to fish rotting on a bank, or worse. I can't even quote what it says about the smell of Bradford pears. You'll have to use your imagination. This is not the particular smell you want to walk out the front door to on the way to work. The Bradford pear has even been coined the semen tree, I kid you not, on Urban Dictionary for its atrocious odor. Consider how much you want to hold your breath from spring through summer to withstand this smell. This is a non-edible fruit. Grass can't grow under it. It stinks and it has weak branches that are very subject to wind and breaking on power lines. I don't understand this choice.
So the predominant street tree in Beverly, up and down Cabot Street primarily, and all over the place, it has the white flowers in the spring and the red leaves in the fall. Those are Bradford pears. They're everywhere in Beverly.
Mm-hmm. They are.
I would suggest, and I appreciate that, Mr. Miller, I guess my comment would be whether they're Bradford pears, apple trees, lemon trees, they're not arborvitaes. And when a plan calls for arborvitaes and you're planting something else, clearly the person doing the planting should have known that that's not in what is in accordance with it's not in accordance with the plan.
I guess, Madam Chair, I agree with your comments that I feel somewhat blindsided by this approach of coming back with these significant changes, I think. And I'm mystified by them, frankly. And I'm mystified by this, frankly, the audacity of coming back and asking for these changes after they've been done. I think it's audacious.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Derek.
Thank you. You folks probably or may remember that I was the lone vote against this project. So I won't pile on here. But one of the things I had been concerned about at the time was, the way the building fit into the area, the unique architecture of all the different homes and businesses that are up against the street in that area. And I do know that the design review board, even though I didn't, ultimately vote for the project, but the design review board did an extraordinary amount of work that took an extraordinary amount of time to pay attention to the details on this house. Now, this is not a surprise that anyone in the neighborhood is going to be notice that all of the different architectural elements, from dormers to gables to the course around the entire home, to the shingling up of the balconies, that we weren't going to notice any of these things, and neither should the developer have figured that these are meaningless, cheaper ways of getting through this. Everything, including the parking, where I remember asking multiple questions about whether or not the way it was lined, the parking into the covered garages, where the cars would be able to make those turns around the wall. Assured, yes, this is not a problem. Every single one of these things, to me, is there's nothing minor about this, and I think we have to make sure that the developer is doing the course of shingles around the house to the original specifications as well, if that's something that he's going to go out and do himself. But overall, I'm extremely disappointed with the developer in this project, and I think that beyond, personally, beyond saying that these are not minor modifications, I also think that we should be considering what sort of action should be taken against this developer if these things are not corrected, because this is outrageous.
So the action that would be taken against the developer is that these are temporary occupancy certificates here. So until the board rules on the request for modifications, they're temporary, and they won't be made permanent until such time as the board rules on them.
So I can also provide some clarification on that. I've spoken with the building inspector on this, and so if the planning board approves certain changes or approves certain changes with the condition that certain elements be added back in, they can create a deadline for that, a reasonable amount of time to put those elements back in. And if those elements are not re-added by the time that expires, either the certificates of occupancy can be rescinded and fines can be added, or other action can take place. So there is some fiscal obligation here.
Okay, let's do this. First of all, are there any further questions for Mr. Alexander or the applicant? Okay, let's itemize what is being asked. So we're talking about, and let's do it in light of what the applicant is asking. The applicant is asking that the I'm calling them gables.
Yep.
The 8 gables be eliminated.
Only 6 of the, or.
Well, not eliminated, that the flat
architectural
detail
be removed.
be eliminated. The gables themselves will stay.
So they'd be altered to shingle instead of panel.
All right, so they...
Panel,
all right.
that's the word I've been looking at.
Altered?
Panel.
Altered as shingles and not panels, right?
Yes.
Quick question too, do those gables, does that include the one above the main entrance on Everett Street? Okay, so there are 9, in fact.
Okay, that's right, yeah.
Okay, 9.
The 8 on the house and 1 on the first floor there, yeah.
So could I clarify, excuse me, Madam Chair?
Yes.
So are they returning to this?
So the...
No, what, I'm sorry, go ahead, Emily. No, please go ahead.
So the applicant is requesting that instead of adhering to the Design Review Board's recommendation, that they receive relief, and instead of having to return to the paneled gables, they remain shingled gables.
Right.
So keep shingled gables rather than paneled gables,
That's
right?
what they're requesting versus what
That's
DRB.
the
Yes.
modification we're seeking, yes.
That you
Yes.
are requesting.
Yep,
Versus
Okay.
what the DRB has recommended.
right.
Okay.
Just want to make.
I think that the chair is just going through right now, just
Right.
summarizing the modifications that we're looking at
That y'all look-
without differentiation between whether DRB approved them or not. Am I correct?
That is correct, Mr. Alexander. The second one is the change to, I'm sorry.
So I'd say the second one is the banding around, above the first floor.
Oh, and we're not seeking that modification, we're agreed that we're going to do that.
All right.
So that's not a requested modification.
So then on the, what do we call them, the balconies?
Yes.
All right, so the change in the balconies from...
We're not doing what was approved by DRB and what was
From
not.
wood
We're just summarizing the request for
wood
modification.
slats to shingles, right?
Correct.
Yep. And what about that,
So the next one I'd say would be the dormer.
the extension of the dormer from, was it fair to say the extension of the dormer from peak to peak?
Yes, that's a change we're seeking. Or from gable to gable, just to keep
Okay.
the terminology the same.
Okay, and that is all of them with respect to the building themselves, correct?
Yes.
Okay, if we turn to the landscape plan, let's start with our favorite, which is a substitution of Bradford pear trees for arborvitae. Right? Mm-hmm. How about the next one is the removal, or the change, the change from the bluestone
2 pavers.
2 pavers on the, I call it the rear
Yes.
walkway?
Yep.
The 6th one you're asking for is the removal of the bluestone
On the Hale Street side, right.
walkway on Hale Street side.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. 7 would be the removal of the landscaping on the Hale Street side. Yep. In front of the stone wall. Okay, 8 is,
I'd say that's the addition of the street tree on the corner of Everett and Hale. There is an addition of a tree.
okay.
And that was another one that the design review board approved of.
The addition of the tree on the corner of Hale and Everett.
Yep.
Did that addition of the tree come at the expense of the removal of something else?
So there was the removal of some low-lying landscaping. Or some low-growth landscaping. So-
Is this the corner you're
So
talking about?
I'm speaking
Oh,
about
over
this
here.
one.
Oh, okay.
That corner. Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Let's see. The removal of, can we call it the tail?
I think it's a pretty good description. Actually, there's 2 tails.
You're only
Peninsula.
requesting to remove.
What's that?
one. You're only requesting to remove 1.
No, he's requesting to remove 2.
Right, the DRB agreed that we could remove 1.
Got it.
We were
So the
requesting
removal, and what are those tails constructed of? Are they vegetation?
both. I believe so. They the what are
Whatever. Oh, whatever you want.
I don't think it was a wall.
Yeah, they're like, it sounds like, the plans are, Nepeta Walker's Low, they're called.
Okay, and you wouldn't replace them, you would just cut it off, basically square it off?
Yes, yep.
Okay. Okay, what are we missing?
I think the alteration of the wall along the northern perimeter.
Right, the jog that I talked about for, along the parking lot. Or the parking area, we should say, not lot.
Hale Street is south, right?
Hale Street is,
East.
east.
I was incorrect then, not the northern.
No, I'm sorry, Hale Street is south.
Oh, right.
So as you face it, that's south.
I'm directionally challenged.
Yeah, me too on the, much easier right, left, up, down for me, but.
Yeah,
It would have been a very bad thing for me to be directionally challenged.
yes, it would be.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not for you.
Yeah.
Okay, are there any other, I've got 10 proposed changes. Are there any additional ones that we're missing?
We mentioned changing, in the rear, the bluestone to the pavers. We have some.
Yes. Okay, so let's talk options.
So
Go ahead.
before Would it be preferable that I would read the design review board's recommendations?
It would be very appropriate, thank you.
Okay.
And my apologies.
No, don't worry about it. So, reading the design review board's letter, at the July 8th, 2021 meeting of the Beverly Design Review Board, members of the board reviewed the above referenced submittal, noting the drawings, and the drawings are the same as what has been submitted for you. At the conclusion of its discussion, the board unanimously voted to recommend the planning board approve the modification for the above referenced location with the following conditions. Return the originally approved gable details above all third-story windows to the building. So return the panels rather than the shingles. Return the originally approved horizontal banding or the shingle flare between the first and second floor on all sides. And so the applicant is comfortable with that request. Return the originally approved flat panel to the gable over the Everett Street entrance. Return the originally approved plantings along the Hale Street or the southern side of the building, and so that includes the plantings that were directly adjacent to the wall.
I'm sorry, can you go back to the one or two before you just...
So the design review board recommended that the gable details.
Yep, we got that one, yep.
Returned back to the original, so that's
Yep.
both the third-story windows and the Everett Street entrance, so all of them.
The Everett Street entrance.
So,
I think you just said all of them, all nine.
Yes, all of them, all nine.
All right,
All nine.
yeah.
okay.
And so the applicant is requesting relief from that condition. Return the originally approved horizontal banding between the first and second floor on all sides.
Right. and
So the applicant is accepting that condition. Condition 4 is return the originally approved plantings along the Hale Street side of the building. So all of them. And so the applicant is currently requesting relief from that condition and would like for the plantings to remain as they are. And
That's that second layer along the wall.
No, I'm just thinking, the applicant isn't actually asking relief from that condition. You're asking us to approve what you've already done.
That would be, what we've done is relief from the condition that was approved.
so you're asking for approval waiving the design review board's condition.
Right.
Waiving it. It's not there.
Oh, because the design review board conditions are made part of the decision of this board.
Correct.
But can't we just, I'm thinking legally, so, I'm sorry. Go ahead, keep going.
Sorry, the last one is to extend the stone wall along Everett Street, which currently extends north from Hale Street by an additional 7 feet. So the wall, as it starts out from the corner of Hale and Everett, it currently extends north on Everett approximately 3 to 4 feet.
Approximately what, Emily?
3 to 4 feet. And then stops.
So that basically to restore the, what are we calling that?
The tail.
The tail.
So the design review board,
Restore the tail, basically, is what they say.
the design review board's recommendation is to place a condition to restore that tail
Right.
As a wall.
as a wall.
As
a-
a,
as a-
On the plans that were approved, it is just plantings, there's no wall there.
It extends from the wall, but the tail itself is low-lying vegetation.
So that is correct, and so the design review board's condition is to extend the stone wall along Everett Street.
I think what they meant, though, was, well, whatever. I wasn't there, so, but my understanding was that they were just saying, put the tail back in.
I can go back and listen to the motion, but I believe that they meant to, and that they meant to extend the wall. And Madam Chair, the chair of the design review board is also here.
Sandy's here.
If any clarification needs to be made. And so those are the recommended conditions.
Right.
There are 5 recommended by the design review board. So typically, these letters with recommendations and conditions are incorporated into the planning board's decision. In this case, the applicant is, correct me if I'm wrong, requesting, instead of incorporating the letter with all of the conditions, requesting that just the condition to return the originally approved horizontal banding between the first and the second floor on all sides be made a condition. Am I correct? Yes. Okay.
Andrea, can you help me out legally here?
I'll try.
You're not asking me.
Should we be concerned at looking at this from the DRB condition, or looking at this, these are, the applicant is coming before us requesting two things. One, that we find all of these changes that they've already made as minor modifications, and that we approve them. Right?
Well, wait, that's two different things, isn't it?
That's what he's asking, no?
No, that's what they're asking.
That's what they're asking for.
Right? So do we have to, this is where do we have to, however, whatever we decide to do we have to look at it in the perspective of what DRB is recommending? Or can we just say within our authority, we deem these things to be major or minor or whatever, and we approve them all, or we disapprove them, or we like 1 and we like 3 and we like 5, but we disapprove 4, 5, and I'm just making this up. 4, 5, and 8. I guess I'm not sure where.
Can I provide some clarification?
Please.
Sorry.
Always welcome clarification.
And I apologize if it's not been clarifying up to this point. So the design review board is a recommending body.
Yeah.
They recommend what a decision that the planning board does not have to agree with the design review board.
Right.
They may choose to completely agree with the design review board and
Right.
simply to incorporate their letter of recommendation.
Yep.
They may choose to agree with certain things and incorporate specific conditions into their decision, in which case I'd recommend, instead of incorporating the design review board's letter, that specific conditions be added to the motion, using the design review board's letter as a guide. Or the planning board may decide to diverge completely from what the design review board recommends.
I'm not necessarily suggesting, and this is by no means intended to be disrespectful to DRB at all. I guess from legally, what I'm thinking of is why we are framing our potential course of action in light of DRB and not in light of simply what is in front of us.
So these are design changes.
Yeah, I think the DRB's decisions would help, similar to our hearing last month, where we presented a recommendation to the city council on whether or not to approve the zoning change. Is that fair to equate, like the DRB says, look,
Yes.
here's what we think about this.
Yeah.
You guys have to vote.
The site plan review ordinance requires the recommendation of the design review board. Very similar to a zoning change requiring the recommendation of the planning board. So it is a requirement of the ordinance.
Oh, I understand it's a requirement, but
we could still say no to everything, just like
Right, I
we
guess-
voted 8-1 to approve the zoning change, and the city council could have said pound sand.
right.
So
Okay.
it's an analogous.
Ms. Flannery?
Madam Chair, but this was approved, but what we're looking at was approved. The plan was approved, that the applicant changed. How does that,
So
without permission? I mean, if we approve the plan,
Right, there's a plan that's
it's a
been
plan that's been
approved.
approved.
And now they've
which
come,
before us with changes to the plan that we didn't approve.
Right. So
What does that
isn't
mean?
the issue then, how do we deal with the applicant's
Yes, changing something
requested modifications
After the fact.
after the fact.
after the fact, obviously taking into account what DRB is recommending. But I'm not sure, it seems to me that, Emily, you're suggesting that we frame whatever decision in light of what DRB has recommended. You know, we accept DRB's recommendation about, you know, about number 4 and that sort of thing. And
So if it makes it any easier for the board, I think in light of the comments that we've gotten here, and make it easier, we at this point, we would go along with the DRB's recommendations if this board was so inclined, rather than going.
Yeah, and I'm inclined to think that maybe DRB didn't go. We
They
may
had
not.
two meetings on it.
And I certainly respect that. I guess, and obviously I don't know what my rest of my board members are thinking, but that may not, for me, that's not enough.
Just
Emily,
by,
did you want to offer something?
So I'd like to note again that the chair of the Design Review Board is here if there are any questions about what went on at the Design Review Board meeting, as is your representative to the Design Review Board. But these are, so this modification is being requested, and the modification centers around design changes. And they're not parking changes, they're not stormwater changes, they're very specifically exterior design changes. So in this case, just the Design Review Board has weighed in and
Right.
made a recommendation. So that's why I've been discussing it, and I didn't mean to frame it around the Design Review Board, but just noting that this is the Design Review Board is a recommending body. They review these.
Absolutely, and it's something,
Yeah.
and we do, and I think we always take the recommendations of the various boards, obviously design and review, parking and traffic, we always take them. I guess what concerned me was, it seemed to me that we were looking at framing whatever decision in light of, or in response to the DRB's letter to us with the recommendations, instead of looking at their recommendations and incorporating them into our decision.
could I be heard for a minute?
Derek, I have a question.
Go ahead, Derek.
Does the temporary certificate of occupancy spell out or point to the Design Review Board conditions and or the specific planning board? What's the exact language in the certificate of occupancy? What is that based on? If we were to eliminate the Design Review Board conditions, then does that take away any leverage?
So I do not have the exact language of the certificate of occupancy. I'm not sure.
Well, typically a certificate of occupancy is for a time certain, a limited period of time, at which time it is either replaced by a permanent certificate of occupancy, or if there are mitigating situations such as, you know, a review and approval by a board, it is extended for another time certain.
I understand that.
So there's no conditions.
However, I don't think there's much typical here, and I think that we should really have the exact language of what the certificate of occupancy says.
I thought I think it's less about what the C of O says and what the building inspector has indicated. And I think he has made the C of O, the temporary C of O, dependent upon what the planning board decides tonight, maybe tonight, in light of DRB recommendations.
Okay, thank you. That
if I could
clarifies it. That's
yeah.
the case.
Thank you. If I just could put it for a moment here.
Sure.
I did want to emphasize the fact that the Design Review Board met twice on this, and they did really spend a lot of time. And also, you know, on the Design Review Board, you do have people that's their specialty design. You have some architects, you have some designers, you have some builders. So they're pretty thoughtful. And they, you know, and as you know, they're very thoughtful, and they take, they put a lot of time in to make these decisions, and this went over, as I said, a couple of meetings, so. Yeah.
Absolutely, and I have enormous respect for them, because I couldn't do what they do. So, Wayne, you wanted to add something to our discussion.
Okay, I remember. Oh, yeah. I don't recall ever having an instance where we were asked to judge whether something was a minor modification, where we parsed several modifications into that one's minor, but that one's not. I don't see a pathway for us to say these are minor modifications and cover all of the modifications. That path is not open to us that I can see.
Madam Chair, sorry.
Unless we approve any and all modifications down to the Bradford Bears. Otherwise, we can't say that this is minor. Oh, except that walkway isn't minor. We just can't do it. There's no pathway.
Sorry to interrupt.
Hold that. Go ahead.
Rodney Sinclair has raised his hand.
Oh, Rodney, did you want to ask or offer a comment or a question?
I did, and I apologize. It's really, really hard for me to hear the board members, so I apologize. I don't know much. I'm trying to read the captions as people speak. But I just had a question just in terms of the transaction of these two units. The listing service said that these units closed on June 14th. I just wanted to see if the temporary C of O was issued to allow the closing or the sale of these two units. And if so, has that sale gone through? Are there new owners in these units, or have they moved in?
Yes, the units have been sold. They have moved in. So yeah, they're occupied by these people.
So what's the right of your client to continue to do work on this structure, given that he doesn't own it anymore?
Well, I think that the fact that if he's not allowed to do the work on the project, that there's no occupancy, and these people could be forced to vacate the premises.
You know, Rodney, first of all, thank you for the reminder, and I apologize to you and to Derek and everybody else listening remotely. We have not done a good job tonight about making sure that we're speaking into our microphones, and to the extent that we'll continue this meeting, then I certainly apologize, and we'll make every effort to be better about it. What is the desire of the board? Obviously, the first step on this is to determine whether or not the proposed modifications are minor in nature or are major in nature. If they are minor, we can vote to accept or reject them tonight. If they are major, and we vote that they are major modifications, then we have to schedule a public hearing on the matter. I will offer this, that Wayne, you have said it, I'm sorry, go ahead, who's that?
This is Rodney.
Oh, hi, Rodney.
I was just going to chime into that discussion about whether they're minor or major. I don't like the changes. I think that, looking at the sale of these $1 million units, these $2 million units, I think that it's distasteful, the design changes that were implemented. I don't, Derek spoke to the process and the history of this developer, and I haven't been a part of that, but I can feel his sentiment. That being said, I don't think that these changes are major. I think they are aesthetic. I think they are distasteful, but I don't think they're major. And given that there are two owners impacted by this scenario, I would just say that these are minor, and we just move forward and keep it in mind for future projects that this developer comes before us for.
Okay, thank you, Rodney. Other members? Wayne, you've always said to us that it's hard to know when a modification is minor or major, and I absolutely agree with you. I would suggest that if we were looking at one or two of these, perhaps they could be deemed minor. but I think when we look at these collectively, we have 10 proposed changes here, that my personal opinion is that
In the aggregate.
in the
they're major.
aggregate, they're
Oh, you
major.
stole my word.
Sorry. It's one time, just one time.
Other board members' thoughts?
I found Wayne's comments really helpful in terms of, we don't get to pick and choose, like as helpful as it is to have design reviews input, I think I'm struggling with, it's almost more confusing to understand that they didn't want to accept some of them, because we don't really get to say, like, I'll take 1, 7, and 4, but
Yes,
not
we do.
two.
Yes, we do.
Well, I thought what Wayne just said was if they're either major or minor, we don't get to say like these half are major and these half are minor.
So what, well, no, so overall, they are either major or minor, but afterward, the board is able to say these are appropriate and these are
Okay,
not.
so what we would, so vote number 1 would be to say that they are, we'd have to say they were minor in order to then go and say, we accept these and don't accept these. Yeah.
But we would have to conclude that they are minor in the aggregate,
In the aggregate.
which I don't.
So we can vote, if they are determined to be minor in the aggregate, we can vote yes or no on each one of them this evening. If they are deemed to be major, we're simply putting off the vote until such time as a public hearing is held.
Is there a sufficient complexity here that we should ask counsel from the solicitor?
I'm not sure where the issue, what do you think is complex?
Just the question of whether or not, what happens if we deem these changes to be major or minor? I'm not sure where it goes from there. And if we're essentially canceling the certificate of occupancy if we do this, and do we have firm footing to do that? I mean, that's a pretty major step for us to take without, I'm not particularly comfortable with it. I have no background as a solicitor, so I'm not particularly comfortable with taking that step.
I think the solicitor's office would put this back, and I can't speak for them, but I think they would put it back on the planning board. The planning board has certain criteria for major versus, or a minor versus simply modification that requires a public hearing. And I think they would say that it is the prerogative of the planning board to make that judgment call. And so nothing, the certificate of occupancy would not be rescinded until the planning board sets a date for compliance.
Okay.
And then that date was, and then those changes were not made by that date. So the planning board would need to set a date by which compliance can be reached. And then the developer would need to become compliant by that date. If they do not, then the certificate of occupancy would be rescinded and fines would start, or people would have to move either one, but not before.
Okay. I guess I would just opine that I think that I voted in the first place that this project was not a minor modification when it was changed from a dual use or I'm sorry, I forgot the name.
Mixed use?
Mixed use to a not mixed use. I voted that was not a minor change, and then I voted for the project, I believe. In this case, I would be compelled to vote that these are not minor changes in the aggregate. However, I would be in favor of some of the changes. It's just where I am.
And I think that that's a fair, I don't think there's anything wrong inherently in what you're proposing. I mean, I think I'm pretty sure it was unanimous that when the project went from a mixed use to residential, that we all were sort of blown away by the fact that anybody would think it was a minor modification. And I think it was, I can't I can't swear to it, but I'm pretty sure it was unanimous vote that it was a major modification. Then the public hearing was held, the hearing was closed, and we obviously, I think maybe Derek might have voted against it. It might have been an 8-1 decision.
It was
but
a
I-
6-1 decision.
Okay,
Derek
6-1.
voted against.
So there's nothing inherently wrong with finding something major and then voting, in favor of it, when the applicant believes it's a minor modification. So I don't think that's an obstacle. I think frankly, it's a question of how you want to proceed tonight. Do you want to deem these minor and then deal with each one of these? Or do you want to consider these to be major, hold the public hearing, and then deal with them?
Yes.
Isn't the other alternative, though, would be we deem them major, and then it's fixed to be built the way it was specified, right? Is that another option?
No, if it's deemed major, then it becomes a public hearing, it's put over.
Right.
And then the decision is made whether to allow some or all of the requested modification.
But at any point,
when
couldn't they
she's
just
asking,
Hold it one at a time. Go ahead, Sarah.
couldn't you at any point build it the way it was approved?
Yes.
yeah.
We're willing to do it.
He's saying you're willing to do what the DRB approved.
Yeah, my goal is to get the building completed and done, and comply with the board and everybody else. So, I'm willing to go with the DRB. We thought maybe, we wouldn't have to do some of the landscape or things, but I will comply with the DRB if the board thinks it's in the best interest to finish the project and move on in good faith. And I will. If you agree to that, I will do it ASAP and get all the modifications completed.
So Sarah, just referencing what you were saying, it's the same decision. It's simply, frankly, a question of whether the decision is made tonight or whether the decision follows a public hearing with some input. I don't know if the neighbors would come, I don't know. And then after that public hearing is closed, making the same decision that we would otherwise make tonight. It's just a question of that.
I guess my question was more sort of,
I'm sorry.
is there another we're not actually the ones fully making the decision. He is also making a decision and wanting the change to begin with. I guess that's all I'm pointing out. I felt like the comments that were being made were sort of laying the responsibility on us to make a decision that will impact people who are living there. I'm just saying there's another party that's participating in the decision by wanting the changes. Like, we could just build what we approved.
Right.
Yep.
So you're saying the applicant could withdraw and then...
I'm just saying that's another option if we feel like we don't like any of the ones that have been laid out on the table. I'm just...
Yeah.
As much as I would like to expedite the process and not make this onerously, redundant forever, there's no way I can say that, I can vote and say, yep, these are minor. I just can't do that. Much as I might like to expedite the process and say, okay, great, do what the DRB. I just can't. I just can't sit here and say those are minor changes.
So if I could just
Can't do it.
suggest something, there's a twofold process here. One is determining if requests are minor and the other is minor or major. You could go through the 10 and vote minor, minor, major, et cetera. And then, then the minor ones could be voted on tonight. The major ones could either be put over to a public hearing or, the developer could decide to withdraw on that.
I'm not sure I want to parse this out.
I don't think we have that. I appreciate the creativity, Mr. Alexander, but I don't think we have, that's not kind of in the, I don't think that's an option for us. I think that in aggregate, these are the changes that were made, whether, again, coming in front of this board tonight for forgiveness, not for, permission as the usual process goes. And I think that we have to take them in their aggregate as major and minor. That's the decision I think is on the table for the board.
Okay, so let's,
Sorry?
Go ahead, Wayne.
If the applicant were to withdraw, hypothetically, and then come back and say, okay, I've done all of these things, but I changed the blue paving stone to something else, whatever that is, and then request that that be deemed a minor modification, I might be very inclined to do that. if what's left is in fact minor, then I can go yes when the question comes up. But I can't
Okay,
now.
so let's move the issue as to whether or not these are minor or major modifications. So I would welcome a motion from anybody.
I'll take this on. I move that in the issue of site plan review number 14619 at 0 Everett Street, 718 Hale Street, 0 Everett Street LLC, I'll move that the modifications to the site plan are minor in nature.
I will second that.
Okay, so we have a motion before us asking that we deem these modifications to be minor in nature, and Mr. Miller,
Yes, and then I'm going to vote,
okay,
no.
has
Second.
seconded the motion. Is there any further discussion on this particular issue?
It would be helpful to know sort of where, I guess, so Rodney feels that they're minor, but you feel they're major. I guess those are the two choices.
That's not the only choice.
That's all we know for now. That's all we vote.
I mean, I would, if any others want to share what they're thinking at this point.
I think it's major.
You find that, that's right, you find them major.
Yeah, and finding them major, I don't know if the neighbors would come out, but if we find them major, it at least gives an opportunity to the neighborhood to come out and comment on the pear trees versus the arborvitae. You know, they may not show, but they may show. And I think that they should have that opportunity.
Would the people who bought the property also have the opportunity?
Of course.
Yeah. To speak? I mean, to me, that's certainly would be. Two owners.
Sure.
That's helpful.
Okay, is there any further discussion on the motion? Yes, Wayne?
We have not heard from the head of DRB, and I would be very curious to hear what she has to say.
There's a motion on the table.
Discussion.
It's a discussion among board members, and I think that.
I don't know where else to squeeze her in, that's all.
At the public hearing.
Yeah.
This is not meant as any slight. To me, it's simply an issue of making a determination as to whether or not these are minor or major. I'm hoping that the chairwoman of the DRB will be at our, if we opt to go that route, the public hearing, and we'll weigh in at that point in time, because I think obviously that's very, very important.
I find myself in agreement.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on the matter? Okay, hearing none, I will call the roll. So a reminder that a yes vote deems these to be minor, a no vote is a rejection that these are minor. So, Sarah?
No.
Derek Beckwith?
No.
Alexander Kraft?
Yeah,
I'm going to do the Jeopardy song for you.
I know. Yeah, I think, I agree with Mrs. Sinclair. I think they're, yes, in totality, I don't like the way the applicant went about this process. I really don't like that, but I think these are aesthetic and I think they're minor.
Okay, so that's a yes.
Yes, sorry.
Okay, Ellen Flannery?
No.
Wayne Miller?
No.
Rodney Sinclair?
Yes.
Brendan Sweeney?
No.
Andrea Toulouse?
No.
Ellen Hutchinson? No. Motion passes. These are not minor.
Motion is denied.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Oh, my gosh. Thank you all.
No.
It's past my bedtime. The motion is denied. Okay. So our next step would be to set this down for a public hearing.
That is correct.
Okay. Do I assume you would like it in August?
Yes.
Okay. Welcome a motion on this, please.
I'll make a motion to set the public hearing for the modifications to site plan review 146-19, 0 Everett Street, 718 Hale Street, 0 Everett Street LLC, to be scheduled for August 17th, 2021.
Is there a second on the motion, please?
I'll second, Madam Chair.
Seconded by Ms. Flannery. I'll read the roll. Sarah Bartley?
Yes.
Derek Beckwith?
Madam Chair, my apologies, this is Rodney. Quick question, we don't have to vote that these are major first?
You did.
We did.
You did.
Rodney, so if they're not voted to be minor, they are automatically determined to require a public hearing.
Thank you.
Actually, there's no verbiage that says major any place that I'm aware of.
they're not minor.
Just not minor.
Not minor.
We just
Yeah,
made up
so
the term
it's,
major.
it's minor and then require a simple modification and that requires a public hearing.
I appreciate that.
Okay, Derek Beckwith, on the issue of setting this for a public hearing in August.
Yes.
Alexander Kraft?
Yes.
Ellen Flannery?
Yes.
Wayne Miller?
Yes.
Rodney Sinclair?
Yes.
Brendan Sweeney?
Yes.
Andrea Toulouse?
Yes.
Ellen Hutchinson, yes. Okay, so this matter is set for a public hearing on August 17th, 2021. Thank you.
Yeah.
Everybody, keep your paperwork on this, okay?
Yes. All of it.
So excited.
I'm also planning to do a drive-by, site visit on this one.
It's a nice looking building.
Yeah.
It is nice. I've run by it. It's nice.
Okay, our next agenda item is, where did my agenda go?
Modification.
There it is. Modification request, Parking and Traffic Commission recommendation to the Planning Board to modify a condition to site plan review number 113-14 and special permit number 139-14. The applicant is North Shore Crossing. Do I turn this to you?
Mr. Alexander.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're everywhere tonight.
Oh, yeah.
The Alexander Show.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the Planning Board. For the record, Tom Alexander, with offices at 1 School Street. So this is a request for modification. As you know, when the Planning Board allowed this project by special permit and site plan review, it incorporated the conditions of various departments and commissions. And so the Parking and Traffic Commission had a condition that they were looking for 2 traffic studies 6 months after opening and then a year. Because of the COVID, we had many discussions with planning staff, and because of the COVID epidemic, it was thought that it would not be realistic to be doing traffic studies during that period of time. And so we suggested that it would make sense to do one comprehensive traffic study now that the building is totally occupied and built out, and the pandemic is largely past. And the Planning Board, the Parking and Traffic Commission requested us to provide a scope of services that we would undertake, which we did, and they reviewed and found that to be a very made sense approach, that because it was what we're proposing to do would be very comprehensive, that it made sense to make it just one massive comprehensive analysis as opposed to 2. And so they voted to modify their recommendation that they had made to you, and so we are here to ask if that recommendation that they made could be adopted and modify the decision, the site plan review decision for this project accordingly.
Are there questions for Mr. Alexander? Sarah?
So, I have a couple questions. So you are proposing to do the study when?
In the September, October timeframe, when school's back open and traffic is more closely approximates normal times.
Yeah, and I'm just curious, because so we weren't the ones that you decided that it should be postponed. Was that with the staff? I just don't remember it coming up. Was just a staff discussion?
Yes, it was a staff decision based on the pandemic, and it was simply an administrative decision.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. I'm not questioning it at all. I was just curious whether they had to come to us, like what the procedure is for something like that.
So what the administrative decision was postponing the impact review. And so it wasn't to remove the traffic study at 6 months. It was simply to postpone it to an appropriate time. And so now the applicant has come back and said, we understand that it's been postponed. We would like to simply remove it and do 1 year.
Got it. It makes sense to me. Yeah.
That is a curiosity to me, too, because that was a condition of this board, right?
Yes.
If I may just state that it was not a specific condition of the planning board in its decision. It was the planning board in its decision incorporated a number of conditions that from various departments and just stated incorporating all department or commission recommendations.
That's right, yeah.
In the letters.
And so the Parking and Traffic Commission has submitted a separate letter in this instance that discusses what was reviewed and assessed at their meeting and recommends that Condition 3 be modified to remove the required traffic impact review at the 6-month mark, to have one that's simply on the 1 year mark, which at this point will be done 2 years after the official opening due to COVID, like creating a lost year effectively on normal traffic conditions.
Will this review compare and contrast the original estimations with current?
Yes. Yeah, if I could, the Parking Traffic Commission went into some detail on that, on their letter recommending this in the first, and they reviewed what we had done to make sure that all of these items were what we proposed for the scope of services. So that traffic impact will include the same intersections and turning movements as in the pre-construction analysis. The traffic impact review will recommend improvements if data shows any are necessary in the traffic infrastructure. The traffic impact review will include a comparative analysis of the pre-construction and post-construction conditions, including a comparison of the assumptions and results of the original study to current conditions. It will incorporate and address any traffic impacts related to COVID-19 pandemic pursuant to Mass DOT recommendations, and that it must be conducted in the fall of 2021.
I can't remember another time when we had such a comprehensive before and after review, can you?
Yeah.
And I'd also like to
Excited to
note
see it.
that I made a mistake on my staff report, and I just basically reiterated the Condition 3, so please go by the Parking and Traffic Commission's letter and not my staff report.
Madam Chair, I want to note that Mr. Sinclair has raised a hand.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Mr. Sinclair?
Thank you. No, Emily, thank you so much. That was going to be my question. I saw that the quote-unquote new condition in the staff report was the same language as the old condition. So I was just going to ask about that. Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Alexander? Okay, we are asked, again, this is a request to first make a determination as to whether or not the modification is minor in nature. So let's start with that. What are we smiling about?
I believe it to be minor.
Derek, did you have something you wanted to add?
I was gonna make a motion.
Oh, fire away, my friend.
Good.
Okay. I move that the modification, now, of course, my internet here is crashed, one of the things in terms of the specifics of the numbers of it. So someone else should probably take it because I just lost that web page. I'm sorry.
Okay.
This has to be minor or moderate.
We're going to do a remotion.
I'll do it, Ellen.
Ms. Flannery?
I move to determine the modification to site plan review number 113-14 and special permit number 139-14 is minor.
Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Derek will second.
Derek will second.
Second.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call the roll. Yes, ooh.
Did we talk about why the original 6-month was requested? And if that seems to not be an issue moving forward? There clearly was a reason why they asked for a 6-month and a 1 year. I'm just, and I apologize again if I didn't hear it. But what were the sort of the thought process behind requesting that? And based on that thought process, have the impacts been mitigated, or are there no concerns anymore?
Well, my recollection is that the 6-month, the intent of that was to get it when it was first opened, to see if there's any early changes, and then again capture it when it was fully occupied, and all of the traffic, had come into existence. And what happened is it didn't make sense to do the 6-month because of the COVID thing, and so now we're fully occupied, and we're really at the point at which the 1 year made sense.
That makes sense. Thank you.
So this modification just serves to alleviate the need to have done the traffic review at 6 months. It didn't make sense to do it because of COVID. This now just sort of ties up that loose end. Is that a fair summary, Mr.
That's correct, yes.
Alexander?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I would just say that at the time, I was pleased that the 6-month stipulation was there, because if there were any evident problems, they wouldn't have to wait a year before they were examined or addressed. There were, in my opinion, no real evident problems, so great. So I have no problem with waiting a little bit longer to do a more comprehensive study.
Okay, so we have a motion that's been offered and seconded, and it's the issue of whether or not this is minor in nature. I haven't called the roll yet, right? No. Okay. Sarah Bartley?
Yes.
Derek Beckwith?
Yes.
Alexander Kraft?
Yes.
Ellen Flannery?
Yes.
Wayne Miller?
Yes.
Rodney Sinclair?
Yes.
Brendan Sweeney?
Yes.
Andrea Toulouse?
Yes.
Ellen Hutchinson? Yes. Whoops. Okay, so that motion passes. Now the modification is that the planning board has asked us to amend condition number 3 such that it reads, the project proponent shall conduct one traffic impact review at 1 year following the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for the project and present its findings to the commission. The scope of the review will include all study locations identified in the applicant's original study area, right? So it eliminates what was the need for the 6 months and puts it out to 1 year. Is that right?
Correct.
So moved. Yes.
So it simply eliminates the 6-month traffic study and keeps the 1 year.
Keeps the 1 year.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
So a motion might be to amend the approval and to incorporate the Parking and Traffic Committee's, Commission's new letter and revise condition 3 in the original approval.
Okay.
Sorry, that was a convoluted way of saying it.
It's a motion to approve the modification as requested, reflected in the parking and traffic letter dated with a new condition number 3. It's dated the 13th.
Yep.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. I think that works.
I'll move to approve the modification as requested to site plan review number 113-14 and special permit number 139-14 to reflect the new condition in the Parking and Traffic Commission letter dated July 13, 2021, to reflect the project component shall conduct a one traffic impact following the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for the project and present its findings to the commission. The scope of the review will include all study locations identified in the applicant's original study area.
Okay, and you meant, didn't you, Ms. Flannery, that it would be a traffic impact review 1 year following the issuance of the certificate of occupancy?
I did. Thank you, Madam
Thank you. Thank you for your motion. Is there a second on the motion, please?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Kraft. Is there discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call the roll. Sarah Bartley?
Yes.
Derek Beckwith?
Yes.
Alexander Kraft?
Yes.
Ellen Flannery?
Yes.
Wayne Miller?
Yes.
Rodney Sinclair?
Yes.
Brendan Sweeney?
Yes.
Andrea Toulouse?
Yes.
Ellen Hutchinson, yes. Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Appreciate your
you.
time.
Okay.
I read the letter and I read your one. That's exactly what I did.
Okay.
After I admitted my mistake, too.
Our next agenda item is the review letter to the Director of Public Health regarding the pest control plans and management.
Yes.
See you, Tom.
So, board members will recall that this letter came out of discussions with City Councilor Ames, who approached us regarding the problem of rodent and pest I can't even think of the word. Infestation, thank you, in Ward 3. And during our discussion with her, we thought it might be appropriate to direct certain questions to the Board of Health to help alleviate some of the unanswered questions and to give us some clarity on the process. So the Assistant Director, Emily Hutchings, has taken the liberty of drafting the letter. And this is up for the board's review, and just want to make sure that everybody has read it and whether or not there are any questions regarding it. So the questions that are being posed to the Board of Health is, when in the development process is a pest control plan received by the Board of Health? When is a pest control plan implemented? Does a specific action trigger its implementation? How is a pest control plan determined to be adequate and effective? Is neighbor abutter notification required during pest control procedures with a point of contact? How does the public know when a pest control plan is being implemented? Where are pest control plans available to the public? Does the Board of Health review pest management activities during execution to determine their effectiveness? Are changes ever made mid-progress? What happens when pest management activities are being carried out, but conditions on adjacent properties happen to contribute to pest control issues? Again, this is simply designed to move the discussion forward, that we had questions about how the Board of Health interacts with developers, and specific questions as to when, again, that are laid out here. When are pest control plans submitted? How is their efficacy determined? All of that sort of thing. So that, I think, is what this letter does very nicely, and I thank you, Emily, for drafting it so wonderfully. And just wondering, I want to make sure that before we send it along, that any questions or concerns that board members might have are addressed. So if you have any, speak now or forever hold your peace, as they say.
One question
Yeah.
on the penultimate bullet point.
Yep.
Yeah, it's late. I'm going to use fancy words.
No,
There you go.
I think I had the same question you did, so go
Is it
for it.
execution or excavation?
Excavation.
I was thinking the execution of the plan.
Okay, all
Not-
right.
not rodents.
'Cause I'm thinking like physically during the process. I'm like, do they mean execution or do they mean like excavation? Because that's when I'm thinking the rodents are the biggest problem because that's when like foundations become
So,
permeable and visible, and so I'm just wondering if that's what we meant.
So-
But if it was during the execution of a plan, then
So-
I think that's solved by just saying execution of the plan.
yes. So added.
I think we had, part of our discussion, and again, I think the letter kind of captured it, and to your point, Madam Chair, I think it moves the discussion forward, which I think is really helpful at this point. I guess that, I think the other question we had is kind of tools at the disposal of potentially the health department to compel an applicant to, I think at that point, I guess that, I'm not gonna say punitive measures, but I guess that what are the tools at the disposal potentially of the health department or the city to mandate either changes to a pest control plan, if the one that's in place is shown to be ineffective. I think this is great, I think, to move forward, but I think that was, part of our, I'm remembering back to our discussion we had. I think that was one of the topics that we had kind of considered too, is that sorry, Rodney and Derek. I think that was one of the other kind of but not enforcement, but the kind of the tools of the city's or health department's disposal to compel an applicant to either make changes or implement additional measures to satisfy pest control.
So sort of what tools or what authority
Yeah.
does the BOH have?
Because I think a pest management plan is great, but once you get involved, that may not be sufficient to actually mitigate the issue.
You need some kind of hammer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think this
I agree.
This is good stuff, but again, a stick.
You need a hammer.
So.
And I
Yeah.
just don't know the regulations well enough
I don't
to
know either.
if such tools or authority exists. But I think it's a great question.
And even if there's not, that's also helpful information to know.
Yeah, I think it's a great question.
Yeah,
Other comments, questions? Wayne?
yeah, I thought this was excellent.
Thanks, Wayne.
There. In context, last year, right after COVID, I found myself in April and May at my ski place in New Hampshire, where I'm usually not, in the springtime when the snow is melting. I thought the place was infested with chipmunks. They were everywhere. And it dawned on me that I'm never there at that time of year. Must always be chipmunks crawling all over the place. I wonder if a similar thing didn't happen downtown. People are home more, seeing more rodents and rabid animals running around than they were before. So my question is to the point of data. We reference adequate and effective measures and the effectiveness of what's taking place. I don't know how that data is collected. And I guess that's up to them. As long as we say adequate and effective measures, then it's up to them to figure out how to count the things.
So I could add two different questions here. The first one would be, what tools or what authority does the Department of Health have to require additional pest control activities if such activities are warranted? And the other is, how does the Department of Health collect data on pest control issues?
Yeah, I'm thinking of those little things that the parking and traffic have to count the cars going down the street. We need little rat counters in the street.
But I think that's a valid point. I mean, I've also, anecdotally, I think, this is just so gross talking about rats, but, a lot of them, I would imagine, tended to find their source of food at a number of downtown restaurants, which were not open to the same level during the pandemic. And so where did they go? There's like an infestation of bunnies in my neighborhood suddenly because no one's running them over. So it's like, and it's really crass, but that's kind of what's happening, right? And if there's no food source from these restaurants downtown, they're coming to people's homes for their garbage. So I think that's part of it as well.
Yeah, I kind of am very concerned always when somebody presents to me data in the form of an anecdote.
Yes, of course.
I'm seeing more of this.
But
Yeah.
I think though that that's maybe a bit beyond the scope of this letter. I think this is something that we can condition in a specific project about needing pest control measures.
Yeah.
I think overall that could be something, I don't know what the city's responsibilities for a pest management plan for the
Yeah.
city. I don't know. That's kind of more in that realm rather than, this is kind of will help us inform of our own decision.
I don't mind a subtle reminder that
No, it's fine.
counts.
That's fine.
Okay, Ms. Flannery?
Well, Madam Chair, to add to what you said, Andrea, and saying that, given the little creatures are visiting us now, but even more so with now that outside dining has been introduced.
True.
How are the streets being cleaned? Are they being, as they do in the north end, are they washed down? Are they swept? I mean, outside dining has never been here.
That's right.
And you add that to your point, Andrea, if the
great
restaurant's
point.
being closed, but now, if
They're
they're gonna,
outside.
they're outside, and there's food outside.
Yeah.
And are the streets being cleaned? Or how are they being kept clean? So if it were to, even given what our pointers are to create that safety, if you will, or guideline, that there's yet another component now with outside dining. And has been.
That's a great point.
Really good, yeah.
So,
Whether it comes into this play or not, Emily, I didn't know, but I was just adding on to what Andrea and Zane were saying, that this is yet another outside source, if you will.
Another excellent point. We're so clever in the aggregate.
In the aggregate.
Mr. Miller, I think.
The aggregate.
Okay, we're
really
starting to lose a little bit of control over this, so let's get back.
so I could add, or not, depending on what the board would like to do, have pest control practices changed with the increase in outdoor dining and similar activities.
Yeah.
Or have pest control practices in Beverly changed.
Yeah. And maybe not to belabor this point, but I mean, do we need to condition different pest control measures and developments in different parts of the city? Something that's downtown, where there's obviously higher, population density, restaurants, open food sources, this type of thing, as opposed to somewhere else that it's not there. I guess that, we can probably
See what they say.
similar conditions and say that just you need to obviously use a licensed and professional.
But doesn't that fall under the purview of the Director of the Board of Health?
Yes, it's your.
Who basically would say, you're developing, let's go with the West
Yep.
Dane Street
Yep.
project.
Yep.
You're developing West Dane Street, you've got the Indo right up the street, you've got some other restaurants right around.
Yeah.
So I think that all gets wrapped into the pest control plan that gets submitted.
Yeah, I would also note that I believe the pest control management plan that was under development by the mayor's office and other departments is still in the process of being finished up, so it was not available for this meeting. But for the next meeting, May. And I will continue to follow up on it.
Okay, anything else on the letter?
No, it's great, Emily.
Well done.
Yeah, very well done.
Thank you.
So with that all said, then I think you have our blessing to send it?
All right.
Thank you. Let's see, what's next?
Minutes.
Minutes.
Set
Q.
public
Ellen.
hearings, Madam Chair.
Huh?
Set public hearings.
We don't have any, do we?
We did it.
No more.
Oh,
No more to set.
no more to set.
Don't have what?
No additional public hearings to set.
That's good. Okay, approval of minutes. Is everybody, let's take them one at a time. Everybody looked at, wow, we had a busy June, huh?
Yes.
So much in June.
What did I do? Where did I have corrections?
Everybody look at May 25th, 2021 minutes?
Yeah, they were fine. Yes.
Any changes, additions, deletions?
No. Did I find any? No, I did not, I did not find any, Madam Chair.
3 meetings?
I read them and did not find any.
Okay.
I move to approve the minutes, Beverly Planning Board minutes from May 25th, 2021, as
Sec-
presented.
Again.
It was a motion by Mr. Kraft, a seconded by Ms. Toulouse. I have lost that score sheet again. That's okay, I'll just, this is.
Wing it,
I
Madam Chair.
I just used the letterhead. I'll call the roll. Sarah Botley?
Yes.
Derek Beckwith? Alexander Kraft?
Yes.
Ellen Flannery?
Yes?
Wayne Miller?
Yes.
Rodney Sinclair?
Yes.
Brendan Sweeney?
Yes.
Andrea Toulouse?
Yes.
Ellen Hutchinson, yes. Okay, how about the next set?
Madam Chair, I did not find any errors or any edits to the June 1st, 2021 minutes.
Okay, did anybody else find anything?
No.
Nope, okay.
I'll move to accept the minutes of the June 1st, 2021 Beverly Planning Board meeting.
Second.
June, January, July.
You're all getting punchy.
The mistress of minutes has spoken.
Mr. Miller.
All right, oh my gosh, it's losing control here. Okay, I'm going to call the roll for approval of these minutes. Sarah Bartley?
Yes.
Derek Beckwith?
Yes.
Alexander Kraft?
Yes.
Ellen Flannery?
Yes.
Wayne Miller?
Yes.
Rodney Sinclair?
Yes.
Brendan Sweeney?
Yes.
Andrea Toulouse?
Yes.
Ellen Hutchinson, yes, thank you. Next, third set,
June 7th,
June 7th.
not January.
I did note Scrivener's, Madam Chair.
Okay,
I noted Scrivener's in June 7th and also June 22nd, if that
okay,
helps things along for my...
all righty. Has anybody else noted any changes, additions, deletions, mistakes, et cetera, et cetera? Let's live on the edge and look and approve both of them at once.
Oh,
Okay, I'd welcome a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the minutes from June 7th and June 22nd, 2021 of the Beverly Planning Board as amended.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Flannery, seconded by Mr. Kraft. I'll call the roll. Sarah Bartley?
I did find a spelling error. I can hand it in. It's not
Okay, as amended, all right. Sarah Bartley is a,
Yes.
thank you. Derek Beckwith?
Yes.
Alexander Kraft?
Yes.
Ellen Flannery?
Yes.
Wayne Miller?
Yes.
Rodney Sinclair? Brendan Sweeney?
Yes.
Andrea Toulouse?
Yes.
Ellen Hutchinson? Yes. Is there any new business?
There is no new business.
I would welcome a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, Sarah Bartley?
Yes.
Derek Beckwith?
Say yes, Derek.
Derek?
Say yes.
Yes.
Perfect.
I thought it was frozen.
Yes.
Alexander Kraft? Oh, my.
Love of God, yes.
Ellen Flannery?
Yes.
Wayne Miller?
Yeah.
Rodney Sinclair?
Yes.
Brendan Sweeney?
Yes.
Andrea Toulouse?
Yes.
Ellen Hutchinson, yes. We are in adjournment. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam